Chapter 71. I pushed Duanmu K away and glared at him. Who wants to forgive you? Go, keep acting like a young master. Duanmu K stood there looking at me innocently. I don't have a young master's temper. My temper is so good. You're bullying me. I'm going to complain to Father Lung. I fiercely stepped on Duanmu K's foot and pulled him toward the door. Hurry up and leave with me. Don't disturb the two of them. Hearing my words, Duanmu K turned around and looked at Han, Hao, and Xinyao. Han, Hao, treat my little sister better. Otherwise, I won't be polite to you. I'm going to break up with you. I forcefully pulled Duanmu K and threw him out of the door. Then I turned around and said to Han, Hao, and Xinyao, you two ignore him. I'll take care of him. You two have fun. Bye. I casually closed the door to Xinyao's bedroom. I pulled Duanmu K back into the bedroom. After he entered the room, he lay on the bed and looked at the ceiling as if he was thinking about something. I didn't pay attention to him. I changed into my pajamas and lay down. I didn't say anything with my back to him. Thinking about the day's events, my heart didn't feel very comfortable. As I gradually entered the dreamland, I suddenly felt someone hug me from behind. I quickly opened my eyes and turned my head. Duanmu K had an expression of enjoyment on his face. His eyes were closed as he hugged me. His two hands were constantly touching me. I hid his hand in disgust. Duanmu K hugged me even tighter. His mouth was close to my ear as he whispered, "Hugging you is the most comfortable feeling." No matter how I heard it, I felt that this sentence was strange. I struggled with all my strength and pinched his arm. "You still touched UXIN, didn't you?" Duanmu K hugged me tightly and said, "I'm just teasing you. How could I have touched her? Don't think too much." "Then why did you say that?" I struggled to push him away. Unexpectedly, I used too much strength, and Duanmu K fell off the bed. I didn't expect to be able to push him off the bed. I quickly got off the bed and ran to him to help him up. "Why are you pushing me? Don't touch me." Duanmu K was a little annoyed. He forcefully shook off my arm that I had extended to support him. He lost his balance, and I took 2 steps back. "I didn't mean to. I didn't think I could push you off the bed. I didn't dare go forward. I just stood there looking at him." Duanmu K stood up and straightened his clothes. He looked at me with a serious face. "I told you, I was just teasing you. You still don't believe me? I can't argue with you. I can't coax you. I can't make you happy. What do you want? Why do you keep asking me what I want? What's wrong with me? You didn't do it?" I was stunned by Duanmu K's series of questions. For a moment, I didn't know how to answer. I just stood there and looked at him blankly. "I'm sorry. I really didn't mean to." Duanmu K looked at me and said impatiently, "Forget it." He turned around and opened the wardrobe. He found a jacket and walked to the door. I looked at him and asked, "Where are you going?" "It's so late." "Don't worry about it. I'm going out alone. You go to sleep." Duanmu K opened the door and walked out of the room. The moment he walked out of the room, my tears flowed down. Did I really do something wrong? But I really cared about him. I believed that nothing would happen between Duanmu K and UXIN. Why couldn't I forgive him? I sat on the floor and cried on the bed. That night, I washed my face with tears. I couldn't sleep at all. I thought about everything that had happened between Duanmu K and me. I was sure that I really loved him, and I didn't want to lose him. But in the past 2 days, we quarreled more and more. No matter what, it was my fault. I decided that as soon as the sun rose, I would go find him and apologize to him face to face. As soon as the sun rose, I packed up and prepared to go out. Duanmu Tachio had a habit of waking up early to exercise, so I had to leave the house before he did. That way, I wouldn't be suspected. I walked down the stairs quietly. I guessed that the people in the house hadn't woken up yet. I walked around the living room and went out the door. As I walked through the garden, I inadvertently saw a figure lying on a rattan chair by the rose pond. Was it Duanmu K? It turned out that he hadn't left the house. I slowly walked to the rattan chair. It was really Duanmu, Quebec. He was lying on the rattan chair, sleeping. His coat was covering him, and he was curled up into a ball. It seemed that he had slept here for the whole night. I didn't want to think too much. I quietly walked toward him, afraid that I would wake him up. Just as I reached the tree in front of the rose pond, I suddenly saw another figure take out a towel and cover Duanmu-ke with it. That figure looked very familiar. As I carefully thought about who it was, she lowered her head and gently kissed Duanmu-ke's forehead. I finally saw her face clearly. It was none other than Xin. My heart broke. I held back my tears and continued to observe them. After Xin covered Duanmu-ke with a blanket, she gently caressed his face. Then she sat next to him and quietly looked at him. She was very entranced, and her eyes were full of love. At this moment, Duanmu-ke woke up. He opened his eyes and saw Xin sitting next to him. He immediately sat up from the rattan chair and looked at Xin. "Why are you here?" "Oh, I came out early. I saw someone here, so I came over. I didn't expect it to be you." "Oh." Duanmu-ke rubbed his eyes and looked at the towel on his body. He asked Xin, "This is yours?" Xin nodded and smiled. "Yes. I saw that you were curled up in a ball. I guessed that you were cold, so I went back to my room and took a blanket to cover you." Duanmu-ke took the towel off his body and handed it to Xin. "Thank you. You're welcome. Anyway, how did you end up sleeping here?" Xin tilted her head and looked at Duanmu-ke. "Oh, it's nothing." Duanmu-ke looked at his watch and then said to Xin, "It's still early. I'll go back first." Duanmu-ke stood up and prepared to leave. Xin looked at Duanmu-ke's back and said, "Brother Duanmu, your face is a bit hot. Go back and take some medicine." Duanmu-ke stopped in his tracks and looked at Xin. "Okay, I know." Then he left. Xin stood there and looked at Duanmu-ke's back, a happy smile on her face. I turned and walked toward the living room. I couldn't control the tears in my eyes. As his wife, I couldn't even compare to a mistress. Duanmu-ke's attitude toward me and toward Xin had completely changed. How was I supposed to face Duanmu-ke in the future? How was I supposed to face everyone around me? Chapter 72. I don't know how I got into the living room. As soon as I entered, I bumped into Duanmu-tachio, who was about to go out for his morning exercise. "Dad, good morning. Are you going out for your morning exercise?" "Oh, it's Shaoli." "Yes, I'm going out for my morning exercise." "What happened to your eyes?" Duanmu-tachio asked me. "Oh, I'm fine. Dad, I'm going to prepare breakfast." I turned around and walked toward the kitchen. I prepared a sumptuous breakfast in the kitchen. One by one, everyone came to the dining table. I sat in my seat and ate my breakfast absent-mindedly. Duanmu-ke came downstairs and sat next to me in the dining room. He looked at me but didn't say a word. Everyone at the table quietly ate their breakfast. After a while, Duanmu-ke said to me, "Why weren't you in your room this morning?" I didn't stop what I was doing, and I didn't look at him. I quietly said to him, "You weren't in your room either, were you?" "You weren't in your room when I wasn't?" Duanmu-ke tilted his head and looked at me. At this time, Xiaofengya looked at us and said, "What are you guys talking about?" I put down my bowl and chopsticks and said to Duanmu-tachio and Xiaofengya, "Dad, Mom, I'm done eating. I'm going upstairs." Then I turned around and walked upstairs without looking back. When I entered the bedroom, I opened the wardrobe and took out my suitcase. I started to pack my clothes. When I was almost done, the door was suddenly pushed open. Duanmu-ke walked in. He saw me packing and rushed in front of me. He looked at me and said, "Why are you packing?" I didn't say anything and just quietly packed my suitcase. Duanmu-ke saw that I didn't answer him. He reached out and grabbed my wrist. He looked at me and said, "I asked you a question. Why are you packing?" I shook off his hand and glanced at him without saying a word. The Duanmu-ke was really angry. He grabbed my suitcase and threw it on the ground. The clothes in the suitcase were scattered all over the place. I stood there and looked at the clothes on the ground. I couldn't help but cry again. I squatted down and picked up the clothes one by one. The Duanmu-ke seemed to see me crying. He squatted down and looked at me. "What happened? Why don't you say something? Don't hold it in, okay? Holding back my tears, I looked at Duanmuke and said, I'm going home for a few days. I think the two of us should think about it quietly. What's there to think about? It's all in the past. It's all in the past. Let's not think about it, okay? Duanmuke held my shoulder. It was clear that he didn't plan on letting me leave. I stood up and looked at him. Let's think about it, I said. My presence here is unnecessary. You'd rather sleep on the rattan chair and let other people take advantage of you than sleep next to me. What's the point of me staying here? I put my clothes into my suitcase and began to tidy up the dressing table. Are you talking about UXIN? UXIN just gave me a blanket. She probably saw that I was too cold, so she covered you with it. That's not a big deal. Duanmuke seemed to understand that it was because UXIN covered him with a blanket that made me unhappy. I packed up the things on the dressing table and put them into the suitcase. Then I looked at Duanmuke and said, Does covering you with a blanket require a kiss on the face? Duanmuke looked at me with a surprised expression. What? A kiss on the face? I don't know. I wiped the tears from my face and said to Duanmuke, Let's calm down and think about it. You can contact me when you understand. Duanmuke angrily reached out and threw all the things on the dressing table to the ground. He shouted at me with a hoarse voice, Cold Glaze, what do you want? You always misunderstand UXIN and me. What's wrong with UXIN and me? Did something really happen? Or is there something else? Why do you have to say and do this? I pulled the suitcase and walked toward the door. When I opened the door, I bumped into UXIN, who had just walked up the stairs. We looked at each other. UXIN looked at my suitcase and smiled at me. Want to go on a trip? Congratulations, your plan has succeeded. Are you happy? I wish you happiness. I pulled the suitcase and walked down the stairs. By the time I finished speaking, my face was covered in tears. However, I couldn't let UXIN laugh at me in front of her. I could only let it all out when I left. Duanmuke stood at the top of the stairs and shouted at me, Cold Glaze, go. Don't come back. I won't look for you. I didn't do anything wrong. I didn't do anything wrong to you. I lowered my head and didn't say anything. I bumped into Xiao Fengya, who was walking towards me. Xiao Fengya stopped me and held my face. Hey, Lier, what's wrong? Why are you crying? Tell me what's going on. Did Kair bully you? I tried hard not to laugh. Mom, I'm fine. I'm going home for 2 days. I'm leaving. After saying goodbye to Xiao Fengya, I walked out of Duanmu's house. I called a taxi and left Duanmu's house. I didn't know how long I had been driving, but I finally arrived at my house. I got out of the car and opened the door. My parents were chatting in the living room. I pulled my suitcase into the living room. They looked up and were surprised to see me. I didn't say anything. My father looked at me and asked, Why did you come back? I lowered my head and didn't dare to look at him. I came home for a few days, I said softly. Did you make parents-in-law unhappy? Did you get kicked out? My father put down the newspaper he was reading and looked at me. I shook my head. I still didn't dare to look at him. My mother saw our awkward conversation and walked over to me. She took my hand and said, Come back for a few days. Mom will ask Annie to help you tidy up. You can stay downstairs with your father for a while. I pursed my lips and looked at my mother. No, Mom. I'll tidy up myself. I want to be alone. What happened? Why do I feel that you're not happy? Did you get sick? Do you want me to take you to see a doctor? My mother stroked my hair and looked at me with a worried expression. Mom, I'm fine. I just want to be alone. Give me a moment. I'll come down and talk to you and Dad. All right. Have a good rest. Call me if you need anything. I hugged my mother and carried my suitcase upstairs. I heard my mother say to my father, Dad, what happened to Lier? Did she get bullied? I'm so worried. She's never like this. What should I do? My father replied, You give Duanmu's family a call. Ask what happened in the end. Don't say too much. Just find out from the side. If you really can't do it, make an appointment with Xiao Fengya. Just now, Xinyao called me and said she misses me. Help me tell her and let her tell Dad and Mom that I'll be home for 2 days and then I'll go back. Please. Why are you being so polite with me? I got it. I'll tell her later. Have a good rest. Bye. Han Hao hung up the phone. Listening to the sound of the phone being hung up, my heart felt a little sad. I had asked myself more than once, was it really my fault for throwing a tantrum with Duanmuke? But how should I face him? When I thought of Xian's adoring expression and the image of them hugging each other in bed, my mind was in a mess. I couldn't sleep because of the 2 phone calls. I sat up on the bed and looked out the window. My heart couldn't calm down for a long time. After tossing and turning in the room for a while, I really didn't know what to do. I picked up my phone and prepared to go to the garden. When I walked out of the room and went downstairs, I saw Mom coming out of the study. She saw me and walked towards me. Li Er, did you sleep well? Mom gently stroked my hair. I shook my head. No, I couldn't sleep at all. Mom smiled and said, silly child, why don't you rest a bit? Do you want to eat something? Mom will make it for you. I smiled and said to Mom, Mom, I don't really want to eat anything. I'm going to stroll around the garden first. You go ahead. Then I walked out of the room and walked toward the garden. When I arrived at the rose pool in the garden, I stood there and looked at the roses. I thought of the flower pool that Duanmu had made for me at Duanmuke's house. My mood instantly dropped. When I thought of Duanmuke, my whole state of mind became bad again. At that moment, the phone in my hand rang. I picked it up and saw that it was Duanmu, Quebec. Why would he take the initiative to call me? I hesitated for a moment, but still decided to pick up the phone. Hello, I said in a low voice. Hello what? Where are you? He asked me fiercely. I was stunned. It seemed that he still hadn't calmed down. I hadn't done anything wrong. Why did he have to be so humble? I said confidently into the phone, I'm at home. What's wrong? Which house are you at? Duanmuke asked. I'm at my own house. I told you, I'll be back for 2 days. I was almost angered to death by Duanmuke's question. Duanmuke sighed and said, come back. Was he trying to persuade me to go back? But why did his tone sound so strange? It was as if he was trying to force me to go back. I didn't say anything. Duanmuke saw that I didn't answer, so he continued, come back quickly. When you left, Dad, Mom, and Xinyao all ran over to ask me what happened. How would I know what happened to you? You didn't tell me. I immediately understood. It turned out that he was trying to persuade me to come back because he couldn't explain himself. I laughed and said, so, without all this pressure, you wouldn't have taken the initiative to contact me, right? Duanmuke sighed again. His tone suddenly became gentle. He whispered to me, honey, let's be good, okay? Come back quickly. Dad and Mom have already lectured me. They said that I don't know how to be considerate, that I don't know how to care about you. I'll slowly change in the future, okay? I don't want you to be under so much pressure. I just feel that a lot of things have happened recently. Your attitude towards me has changed a lot. I'm also trying to figure out my own problems. Is it because I'm not good enough to you? Is that why others took advantage of me? So, let's calm down and think about it for a few days. We'll talk again when we understand, okay? Chapter 74. After a long pause, there was no reply from the other side of the phone. I didn't hang up either. I guessed he was thinking about what to tell me. After a while, Duanmuke finally said, you can do whatever you want. I can't control your thoughts. If you don't want to come back, then do as you wish. I have something to do, so I'll hang up first. Before I could say anything, Duanmuke had already hung up the phone. I laughed coldly and finally couldn't control my tears from flowing down. For the next 3 or 4 days, I stayed at home. I didn't even want to go to the garden. My mother looked at me, her eyes blurred every day. She didn't seem to care about me at all. In the past few days, other than Xinyao and Han Hao who occasionally called to chat with me, no one else contacted me. Time had smoothed out my heartache, and my heart gradually calmed down. Maybe Duanmuke was getting farther and farther away from me. Or maybe he didn't love me that much anymore. He didn't treat me as his own life anymore. On the weekend morning, the sun was especially bright. I decided not to laze around at home. I freshened up and went out for a walk. I asked Xian Yao to meet me at the entrance of the shopping center. It just so happened that our favorite brand was on sale. It would be convenient for me to ask her about Duanmuke's recent situation. As soon as I arrived at the entrance of the shopping center, I saw Xian Yao standing not far from me, waiting for me. I smiled and walked towards her. When she saw me, she ran up to me and threw herself into my arms. It was her usual greeting. After hugging me for a while, she held my arm and began our shopping trip. As we walked, we talked about what had happened in the past few days. I looked at Xian Yao and asked, "How's your brother?" "Sister-in-law, I knew you missed my brother very much. Ever since you left, he has been going out early and coming home late every day. Sometimes when I call him, he says that he is very busy and ignores me. I don't know if he is really busy or just pretending to be busy." I nodded thoughtfully. "Oh, sister-in-law, please forgive my brother. You care about him a lot, don't you? He's a straightforward boy. Sometimes he doesn't think before he speaks. After you left, he regretted it a lot. So please don't lower yourself to his level. Okay?" Xian Yao shook my arm and mischievously acted cute. I smiled and stroked Xin Yao's hair, softly saying to her, "Silly girl, let me think about it. Okay, you don't need to worry about my brother. You just need to think about Mom and Dad and think about me. You can treat my brother as heir." Xian Yao smiled and nodded vigorously. We shopped for a long time and bought a lot of things. When it was almost time for dinner, Xian Yao said she wanted to treat me to a big meal. She took me to a Western restaurant on the top floor of the shopping center. We found a window seat and sat down. Xian Yao ordered a table full of sumptuous dishes. Then she began to tell me about the things that had happened between her and Han Hao. Xian Yao didn't hold back anything from me. She shared all of her innermost thoughts with me. It showed how much she trusted me. Of course, I also trusted her. I knew she wasn't a girl with bad intentions. She wouldn't harm me. She just wanted everyone around her to live a good life. Just as we were chatting passionately, the restaurant's door was pushed open. A tinkling laughter sounded. A woman walked into the restaurant with a man's arm. The woman was smiling happily, but the man had a serious expression and didn't pay attention to her. I glanced at them and froze. The man wasn't just anyone, he was Duanmu, Quebec. After seeing them, I turned my head away. My heart was very uncomfortable, and my heart was beating very fast. I used my arm to cover the side of my face, afraid they would see me. Xian Yao saw my strange behavior. She looked at me and asked in a soft voice, "Sister-in-law, what's wrong? Are you not feeling well?" I shook my head and smiled at her. "Hurry up and eat. After we finish eating, we can go shopping." Just as I lowered my head and hurried to finish eating and leave, the laughter got closer and closer. I heard the woman say, "Let's sit here." I didn't dare to raise my head. I was afraid to look at Duanmuke's face. I was afraid that the two of us would be embarrassed. "Brother, why are you here?" Xian Yao saw Duanmu Quebec. She stood up and greeted Duanmu Quebec, "Brother, who is this woman?" The woman's voice was full of dissatisfaction. She said to Xian Yao, "And who are you? Why are you calling our families young Master K so affectionately?" "Brother, what do you mean by this? Who is this woman?" Xian Yao was angry. She pointed at the woman and asked Duanmu, Quebec. As soon as I saw that the situation wasn't good, I stood up and pulled Xin Yao to leave. But I didn't expect that when I turned around, I would bump into Duanmu, Quebec. I lost my center of gravity and fell onto the chair. My eyes met Duanmu K's shocked expression. Seeing that I had fallen, Duanmu K grabbed my arm and pulled me up from the chair. He held me in his arms and then looked at me and said, "Why are you here?" When the woman saw that Duanmu K was hugging me, she became even more unhappy. She used all her strength to pull at Duan Mukei's arm that was hugging me. She muttered, "Let her go. You can't hug her. How is she better than me? Let her go." Duan Mukei didn't let go. He let the woman tear at his clothes. His eyes were fixed on me. I sighed and pushed Duan Mukei's arm away. Then I picked up the bag on the chair and looked at Xin Yao. "Xin Yao, let's go." Xin Yao glared at the woman. Then she looked at Duan Mukei and said, "Sister-in-law, let's go." Then she pulled me and walked past Duanmu, Quebec. Duanmu Kei suddenly grabbed my arm from behind. "Don't go," he said. His tone was still tough. I didn't do anything, but why did it sound like I had made a big mistake? I tried my best to hold back my tears. I turned my head towards Duan Mukei and said, "Let me go. Your date is waiting for you. I'm sorry for interrupting your date with her." I pushed away Duan Mukei's hand that was holding mine and turned around to continue walking. At this moment, the woman suddenly rushed in front of me and Xin Yao. "Stop. Did I allow you to leave?" Xin Yao was very angry. She reached out to hit the woman, but I pulled her arm to stop her from being impulsive. When the woman saw that Xin Yao was about to hit her, she was flustered and exasperated. She reached out and slapped me across the face. Before I could react, Duan Mukei had already rushed in front of me. He held me in his arms and slapped the woman across the face. Chapter 75. All of us were stunned. I struggled to push Duan Mukei away. The woman covered her face and reached out to grab my hair. "Ah!" I screamed. She pushed me with all her strength. I lost my balance and fell to the ground. Xinyao ran to my side and supported me. She glared at the woman and said, "Are you crazy?" Then she looked at me and said, "Sister-in-law, are you okay? Let me help you up." Duan Mukei reached out to help me up, but I shook him off. By then, the area was filled with onlookers. 2 or 3 waiters came over to ask what had happened. The woman stood in front of me and looked at Duanmu, Quebec. "You hit me because of this woman." Duan Mukei looked at her coldly and only said one word, "Scram." The woman became even angrier. She shouted at Duan Mukei, "You told me to get lost? If you weren't so handsome, do you think I would be willing to talk to you? Don't you think too highly of yourself? Get lost, or I won't be polite to you." Duan Mukei's face was very ugly. He looked at the woman as if he was about to explode. The woman covered her face and sneered at Duanmu, Quebec. "Okay, don't be so happy. Let me tell you, if I hadn't saved you, would you still be standing here alive? You would have been hit by a car and died." "Shut up." Duan Mukei suppressed his anger and looked at the woman. I stood up and patted the dirt off my body. I looked at Xinyao's worried face and said, "Let's go. Sister-in-law, are you okay? Do you want to go to the hospital? Do you feel uncomfortable anywhere?" Xinyao asked worriedly. I shook my head and looked at her. "I'm fine. Let's go." Duan Mukei suddenly rushed in front of me and looked at me. "Don't go. Can you listen to my explanation?" I smiled and looked at him. "No need. You guys can continue. I don't want to talk to you right now." After saying that, I pulled Xinyao out of the restaurant. After we came out, my tears couldn't stop flowing. I quickly walked to the nearest chair and sat down. I covered my face and cried. Xinyao took a pile of things and sat beside me. She didn't say anything. She didn't know how to open her mouth to comfort me. While I was crying my heart out, I suddenly felt a figure walk next to me. Before I could react, that person carried me horizontally. I hurriedly hugged that person's neck and lifted my head. It was Duanmu, Quebec. He hugged me and didn't say anything. We walked forward in a hurry. Since we were in a shopping mall, his strange behavior attracted the attention of the surrounding people. Everyone looked at us with strange gazes. I looked up at Duan Mukei and said softly, "Please put me down." Duan Mukei didn't answer me. He carried me all the way through the elevator, floor by floor. Finally, we arrived at the underground parking lot of the mall. When we reached his car, he put me down. He held my hand, opened the door to the back seat, and threw me in. Before I could react, he had already locked the door. Then, he walked around the car and sat in the driver's seat. Without saying a word, he started the car and took me away from the mall without telling me where we were going. I had the illusion that I was kidnapped. My wallet, backpack, and everything I bought was with Xinyao. I didn't have a penny on me, and I didn't even have my phone. I sat in the back seat and stared at Duan Mukei's cold face reflected in the rearview mirror. I didn't know how to talk to him. We didn't talk to each other on the way back. It was as if the air had frozen. It was so quiet that it was scary. The car drove out of the city and went straight to the top of a mountain in the suburbs. The car finally stopped. I didn't move from my seat. Duan Mukei got out of the driver's seat and walked to the back seat door. After he opened the door, he looked at me and said, "Come out." I didn't say anything and got out of the car. It was a quiet mountaintop. During the day, there weren't many tourists. There was a very unique pavilion at the top of the mountain. I glanced at Duan Mukei and walked toward the pavilion. He locked the car and followed me into the pavilion. I leaned against the pillar and looked at the scenery below. Duan Mukei stood next to me and looked at me blankly. He didn't speak for a long time. Since he didn't want to talk, there was no need for me to take the initiative to talk to him. I silently looked at the scenery, my heart sinking into endless thoughts. Duan Mukei suddenly sat in front of me, disturbing my mood. I rolled my eyes at him and turned my head away. He looked at me and said, "Why don't you give me a chance to explain?" I didn't look at him and said, "What else is there to say? The first time was like this. The second time was like this. What about the third time? The third time is still like this?" Duan Mukei sighed. "I don't know her. When I was crossing the road, I was absent-minded and didn't look at the car. I was almost hit by a car. She was the one who pulled me. To thank her, I promised to treat her to a meal." That's amazing. You just met and you're already hugging and whispering sweet nothings to each other? I glanced at Duan Mukei and then turned my head away. I don't know her. I didn't even know she was hugging me. If you're angry because of this, I don't think it's necessary. Necessary? I'm your wife. If I see you flirting with another woman, how would I feel? Have you ever thought about it from my point of view? Okay, let's just say it was you Xin who took the initiative to seduce you. Let's just say it was you Xin who forced you to do something with her. Then what about this woman today? If you didn't give her a chance to take advantage of the situation, would she have stuck so close to you? Do you really not understand, or are you just pretending not to? I turned my head and looked at Duanmu Quebec. Duanmu K furrowed his brows. How is this related to you Xin? She did have feelings for me in the past, but I didn't accept her. How can you be so sensitive and suspicious? You haven't seen the truth. You shouldn't say things like that so easily. I stood up. I looked at Duanmu K and said, "The truth? What truth do you want? Isn't it enough that I saw you and you Xin naked? I saw you walking with another woman. Can't I think more about it? Why do you have to ask so much of me? Is it that hard for me to make you love me wholeheartedly?" Duan Mukei also stood up and looked at me. "You guessed all of this. I've already told you. You Xin, and I didn't do anything. I only met that woman for the first time. All of this is your own imagination. I didn't do anything wrong to you, and I didn't say I don't want you." Duan Mukei's voice got louder and louder. I looked into Duan Mukei's eyes, and tears flowed down uncontrollably. Chapter 76. I wiped the tears from the corners of my eyes and tried my best not to cry. I looked at Duan Mukei and said, "Since you feel so wronged when you're with me, then don't force yourself. I'll let go. Let's get a divorce." Duan Mukei was stunned when he heard my words. He held me down and squeezed my shoulders. "What did you say? Are you sure? Have you made your decision?" I didn't dare to look at him. I turned my face away, and my tears couldn't stop flowing. Duan Mukei saw that I didn't answer him, and he got even angrier. He turned my face away and said, "Look at me? Cold glaze. Are you sure you want to divorce me, Duan Mukei? Are you sure you want to leave me?" I pushed Duan Mukei away and looked at him. "What do you want me to do? There's already a conflict between us. You'll never give in to me, and I've always misunderstood you. Tell me, how can we resolve this? Isn't leaving the best way? That way, you can be with the woman you like, and you won't have to think about me." I cried very sadly. I stood in front of him, and my tears couldn't stop flowing. I covered my face with my hands and cried loudly. "You're wrong. From the beginning, I've only loved you. I won't even look at any other woman who appears by my side. You're the only one in my heart. Do you know that? Xiaoli, I really love you." Duanmukei's voice suddenly softened. He hugged me tightly in his arms. I didn't struggle. I leaned on his chest and cried sadly. The two of us stood in the middle of the pavilion, hugging each other. Neither of us spoke. I leaned into Duanmukei's embrace and cried for God knows how long. Gradually, I got tired from crying and fell asleep unknowingly. When I woke up again, I realized that I was lying on the long bench in the pavilion. My head was in Duanmukei's arms, and he was hugging me tightly. I didn't know why I was hugging him tightly too. I lifted my head to look at his handsome face, and he was also looking down at me. I accidentally met his gaze, and my face suddenly became hot. I didn't dare to lift my head to look at him again, so I lowered my head and didn't know what to do. Duanmukei stroked my hair and said softly, "You're awake? Why don't you sleep a little longer?" I struggled to get up from his arms. I didn't dare to look at him. I lowered my head and sat on the bench, tidying my clothes. Duanmukei looked at me and asked, "What's wrong? Are you still angry?" I sighed and looked at him. "There's nothing to be angry about. I don't want to be angry. You're the one who hurt me again and again. It doesn't matter, as long as you're not angry." Duanmukei suddenly pulled me into his arms and kissed me gently on my forehead. He looked at me and said, "Then I'll pretend I didn't hear you talk about divorce. Just this once. You're not allowed to mention divorce again." I looked at him and thought for a while. "I'll think about it." Duanmukei became emotional again. He shook my shoulder and said, "What's there to think about? I know I made a mistake. Don't be angry, okay?" Seeing Duanmukei's sincere attitude, I decided to stop. I stroked his face and said, "Let's stop this time. It won't be so easy next time. I hope there won't be a next time." Duanmukei hugged me in his arms and said softly, "I won't. It's too hard to make you happy. Although I know I made a mistake in the first place and let others take advantage of me and make you suffer, I've already realized my mistake. So, wifey, can you forgive me?" I leaned into Duanmukei's arms. I hadn't heard his gentle voice in a long time. The current him was better. At least he didn't make me angry. "All right. When we get back, let's go to your house to get our luggage and go home." I shook my head and looked at Duanmu, Quebec. "I don't want to go back yet." Duanmukei's expression became very serious. He looked at me and said, "What's wrong now? Didn't you forgive me? Then let's go home. You made everyone's imagination run wild when you went back to your parents' house. I just don't know how to face my parents. I don't want to see you Xin either. I don't know why, but I feel disgusted when I see her." I told him my worries. I thought Duanmukei would comfort me, but the opposite happened. Duanmukei let go of my hand and stood up. He looked at me angrily and said, "You Xin again. How long do you want her to exist between us? When we were having a good talk, you had to bring her out. You even said I didn't want to live a good life. You were the one who said everything first." Seeing Duanmukei's expression change so quickly, I stood up and looked at him. "Forget it, Duanmu, Quebec. We still can't talk about it today. I'm not afraid to tell you that the biggest problem between us is in the heart. If you can't solve it, then it will completely affect our relationship. Do as you see fit. When you've thought it through, then we'll talk about the future." Duanmukei looked at me impatiently and said, "I can solve it, but you have to tell me how to solve it." "Fine, you don't have to tell me. But you have to tell me what I can do to make you happy." I rolled my eyes at Duanmukei and said, "You can't ask me that. You know what kind of answer I want. You can't ask me to kick her out." Duanmukei shook his head helplessly. I nodded and looked at him. "What's wrong with that? She's already jeopardized our relationship. Can't I ask her to leave if I want to? I used to think you were a reasonable woman. I didn't expect you to be no different from other women. Duan Muke threw down these words and sat down on a bench in the pavilion. I looked at him and sneered. That's right. I'm no different from other women. I'm just like other women. I'm too possessive of my man. I don't want to share you with others. Is that wrong? Yes, it's not wrong. You're always right. Duan Muke scratched his head and leaned against a pillar next to the bench. He looked like he had nothing to live for. I smiled and looked at Duanmu, Quebec. Forget it. Think about it yourself. Contact me when you've made up your mind. I'm leaving. Then I left the pavilion. Duanmu K sat there and shouted at me, wait for me. I'll take you back. I didn't say I wouldn't take you back. How are you going to get down from the top of this mountain by yourself? I didn't turn around. I waved in his direction and said loudly, no need. I can walk by myself. You can go on, young Master Duanmu. Chapter 77. I walked past Duanmu K and walked back along the road we had come from. Duanmu K shouted at me from behind, but I ignored him and kept walking. After walking for a while, a car suddenly appeared next to me. The car's speed was about the same as my walking speed. I turned my head and saw that it was Duanmu, Quebec. He rolled down the front passenger window and looked in my direction from time to time. As he drove, he said to me, Shally, let's not play around, okay? Get in the car first, and we'll talk in the car. I didn't answer. I glanced at him, then turned my head and walked forward. Duanmu K followed me, trying to maintain the same speed as me. There were several times when the cars behind us honked at him to speed up, but Duanmu K ignored them. As he drove, he kept talking to me about all kinds of things. I didn't pay attention to him, but he was talking very enthusiastically. After another intersection, we would enter the city. Duanmu K didn't give up and followed me closely. After entering the city, if Duanmu K continued to drive like this, it would be too dangerous. For his safety, I decided to get in his car. I stopped on the side of the road. Duanmu K also stopped his car. I opened the door and got in. Duanmu K looked at me excitedly and said, You're finally willing to get in my car. Have you forgiven me? That's great. I rolled my eyes at Duanmu K and said, I haven't forgiven you. I'm tired. Take me home. Okay. You haven't forgiven me. I'll do as you wish. Duanmu K started the car and muttered, but his face was full of smiles. On the way home, Duanmu K told me a lot of things. They were all messy things that happened around him when I wasn't by his side. However, I didn't know who spread the rumors, but people who knew about me and Duanmu K all said that we were divorced. As a result, a lot of women started to appear in front of Duanmu K to attract his attention. They didn't hesitate to play some tricks just to get his attention. This phenomenon surprised me. Although Duanmu K was a public figure in a city and was also a handsome guy, no matter how crazy the women were, they wouldn't try to seduce him. While I was thinking, we arrived at my house. I was about to get out of the car when Duanmu K grabbed me and held me tightly in his arms. He gently stroked my hair and said, Shally, let's move our things home. Dad, Mom, and Xinyao all miss you very much, okay? Just come back with me. I pushed Duanmu K away and shook my head hard. I smiled and said to him, I haven't thought it through yet. Can you give me a little more time? I'll definitely go back with you once I've thought it through. Duanmu K sighed and said, But I don't want to let you go like this. I don't feel safe at all. It's fine if you're by my side now, but as long as you're not by my side, I'm worried that you'll leave me. This feeling is too scary. I've never felt it before. I stroked his hair and said, Okay, don't think about it anymore. I said that I'll go back once I've thought it through. It won't take too long. You have to give me some time. Please believe me. Duanmu K thought for a while and said, Then I'll move here. It's not too far away anyway. It'll be very convenient to drive back and forth. I'll also explain to Father Lung why you suddenly came back. Forget it. I'll be lucky if you don't get in my way. After listening to Duanmu K's brainless answer, I almost spat out a mouthful of blood. I knocked his head and said, "You only know how to come up with stupid ideas. If you have time, go back and think about the problem between us." Duanmu-ke shook his head and said, Okay. I'll think about it, okay? But let's make it clear. You can't leave me. Look at how you're behaving. I'll have to find out who spread the rumor that we're divorced. That's too much. I'll go first. Drive slowly. Okay, then I'll look into it too. Bye. I waved at Duanmu-ke and drove away. I turned and walked through the front door. As soon as I entered the living room, my parents surrounded me and glared at me. I was stunned. I looked at them and said, "Dad, Mom, what's wrong with you? Why are you looking at me like that?" "Lee, tell your mother the truth. Did you divorce Duanmu-ke?" My mother walked up to me and stroked my hair. Before I could answer, my father glared at me and said, "You better tell me that's not true. Right now, our cooperation with the Black Viper Group is very good. If because of your problem, there are problems with the business between the two companies, then it's up to you to solve it." I calmly sighed and said, "Dad, this isn't true. I just met Duanmu, Quebec. If I'm really divorced, why would I want to see him? This is a rumor made up by others." I paused and looked at my father. I continued, "Dad, don't you think you're being too cruel by linking my marriage with the interests of the entire group?" "That's right. Dad, why don't you feel sorry for our Lee? This matter can't be casually heard by others." My mother protected me. She knew that my father didn't feel sorry for me. This marriage contract was originally signed for the interests of both groups. Now you're talking about feelings with me. Don't you think it's nonsense? My father asked me very seriously. I sighed and said to my father, "That's right. At the beginning, I was thinking that I only agreed to marry Duanmu-ke for the interests of our Red Minghui. But after a long time, I found that I already had feelings for him. I can't control these feelings. I also hope that it's fake, but I really like him now." "Then if you like him so much, why did you come back for no reason? You didn't say anything even when I asked you." "Dad, it's really nothing. What do you want me to say?" Although I knew that I couldn't lie in front of my father, I really couldn't tell him the details of my return. "Nothing. I heard from your mother-in-law that before you came back, you and Duanmu-ke had a big fight. The fight was very fierce, so you ran away from home. Is that true?" My father reached out and threw the newspaper to the ground. He angrily yelled at me. I stood in front of my parents, not daring to move. I lowered my head and clasped my hands behind my back. I was like a child who did something wrong, waiting for my parents to criticize me. Chapter 78. Seeing my aggrieved appearance, my father sighed. His tone was a lot calmer as he softly said to me, "Child, although we don't take the initiative to cause trouble, we absolutely can't tolerate being bullied. Tell me, why did you and Duanmu-ke quarrel so fiercely?" I thought for a moment and decided not to tell my parents the truth. I was afraid they wouldn't be able to accept it. I looked up at my father and said, "Dad, you don't have to worry about this. It's inevitable that husband and wife quarrel. It's not a big deal. It's just a small matter. The two of them didn't agree, so they quarreled for a while. They didn't say much. I just happened to miss you guys, so I came back." I didn't know if this perfunctory answer could hide from my father's sharp eyes. Small matter? I don't think it's that simple. My father's serious eyes made me feel very scared. My mother saw my frightened expression and pulled my father back. She looked at him and said, "Aya, you don't have to worry about it. Children are all grown up. It's inevitable that they will stumble. Why do you care so much? When you were young, you always quarreled with me. My parents didn't care either. So you don't need to worry about it. I believe that Lee can handle it well. All right, let's go inside." Mother gave me a meaningful glance. Then, without any explanation, she pulled father away. I stood there and sighed. My mother was still the one who knew me best. I curled up on the sofa. My mind was in a mess, but the person I thought about the most was Duanmu, Quebec. I thought about his good points, thought about his bad points, and thought about every word he had said to me. While I was in a daze, my phone suddenly rang. I picked it up, and saw that it was an unfamiliar number. I hesitated for a moment before answering the phone. Hello? Hello. A man's hoarse voice came from the other side of the phone. Hello, is this Miss Cole Glaze? I am. May I know who is this? I'm calling from a central hospital. Our hospital just sent in an emergency patient. He was injured in a car accident. We looked through his information and found your contact information. So we called you. Car accident? There is no one around me who was injured in a car accident. You may have dialed the wrong number. She was already very annoyed, and this kind of inexplicable phone call made her even more annoyed. Aren't you Mr. Duanmuke's family member? Duanmuke? What did you say? Duanmuke had a car accident? I suddenly became excited and shouted into the phone. Yes, please hurry to the hospital to go through the relevant procedures. After saying that, the person on the other end of the phone hung up. After hanging up, I kept feeling that something wasn't right. Duanmuke had just sent me home, and he was fine just now. How could he have gotten into an accident so quickly? Could it be that he had met a swindler? It's true that there are a lot of telecom scams these days, but it's not as real as it sounds. I guessed that it might be a telecom scam, so I decided to ignore it and take a good rest first. Then I'll get up and think about the future. Just as I was about to walk up the stairs, my phone rang again. I picked it up and saw that it was Xiao Fengya. I quickly picked up the phone and answered. Mom, it's Xiaoli. What's wrong? After the phone was connected, the other side didn't speak at first, but I heard a lot of noise. Hello? Mom? Mom, are you there? Why aren't you talking? After a while, Xiao Fengya's trembling voice finally came from the other side of the phone. Xiao Li. Xiao Li. Just now, the hospital called me and said that K.er had a car accident. What should I do? Xiao Fengya was already sobbing. Mom, don't cry. Is there no one else around you? Where are you now? I heard Xiao Fengya's voice, and I suddenly felt anxious. I'm on my way to the hospital. Okay, Mom, wait for me. I'll be right there. I hung up the phone, grabbed my bag, and ran to the door. Since it was time for the taxi shift, there weren't any taxis at the door. I stood at the door, feeling anxious. Our driver had gone out to run some errands, and he wouldn't be able to come back in time. Just as I was as anxious as an ant on a hot pan, a car suddenly stopped in front of me. I rolled down the window and saw that it was none other than Han Hao. Han Hao looked at my anxious appearance and said, Let's go. Get in the car. I'll take you there. I didn't have time to think too much and directly jumped into Han Hao's car. I sat next to Han Hao and quietly looked ahead. He glanced at me and said, Are you going to the hospital? I turned my head and looked at him in surprise. You know about it too? Han Hao nodded, looked ahead and said, Yes, I know. Auntie called Uncle. At that time, I just happened to be next to her. Uncle had already gone over first. I thought of you. You came out of the Duanmu residence without a car, so I took a detour to pick you up and go with you. Thank you so much. Did Uncle and Auntie tell you anything about Duanmuke's situation? Not really. I just heard that Duanmuke was in a car accident. I think he's in the hospital. I saw that there was still time, so I came over. Han Hao looked at me and smiled. Thank you. I don't know how he is now. I rested my chin on my hand and looked at the scenery outside the window. Han Hao turned his head and looked at me. You don't have to worry too much. Duanmuke's body is very good. His life won't be taken away so easily. Don't worry. Han Hao patted my shoulder. I hope so. I suddenly thought of something and looked at Han Hao. What about Xinyao? How did Xinyao get there? I just contacted her. She's already gone with Auntie Xiao. We should be there soon. Don't worry. I nodded firmly. Later, Han Hao and I didn't talk about anything else on the way. My heart had already flown to the hospital. I mainly wanted to know what was going on with Duanmu, Quebec. Finally, we arrived at the hospital. While we were at a loss, we met Xinyao. Xinyao had already arrived at the hospital. When she saw me, Xinyao threw herself at me. She hugged me and cried. Silly girl, don't cry. Your brother will get better. I gently stroked Xinyao's back, comforting her not to think too much. Xinyao leaned into my arms and cried even harder. She whispered, "Sister-in-law, I'm so scared. First you left me and went back to your family. Then my brother became like this. I'm really scared. I'm scared that these things will happen to me. I'm scared that I'll lose you." Chapter 79. I gently patted Xian Yao's back and comforted her. When I looked up, I saw Xiao Fengya standing at the door of the emergency room, anxiously pacing back and forth. I handed Xian Yao to Han Hao and asked him to take care of her. Then I walked over to Xiao Fengya. I gently patted Xiao Fengya's shoulder. She turned to look at me, tears streaming down her face. I held her hand and said, "Mom, don't worry. It's going to be okay." Xiao Fengya cried even harder. She grabbed my hand and said, "How can I not worry? How could a person get into a car accident? He's still so young. If something really happens to him, how can his father and I live?" I patted Xiao Fengya's back and asked her to control her emotions. She shouldn't cry so hard. I was afraid that she wouldn't be able to take the blow and cause more problems. At this moment, Duanmu Lixiong arrived at the door of the emergency room. When he saw us, he walked up to Xiao Fengya and grabbed her shoulders tightly. "What's going on?" he asked. "What's going on?" Xiao Fengya continued to cry. "I don't know. I was preparing dinner at home when I received a call. They said that K.Er had been in a car accident and was sent here. They asked me to come here immediately." "Is K.Er in there?" Duanmu Tachio was a little agitated. He grabbed Xiao Fengya's shoulder with all his strength. Xiao Fengya looked at him and nodded. "It's K.Er," she said softly. "He was just brought in when I got here. I wanted to follow him into the emergency room, but the nurse stopped me." Duanmu Tachio couldn't take the blow. He lost his balance and sat down on a chair by the emergency room door. I hurried over to support him. "Dad, are you okay? Do you feel uncomfortable anywhere?" Duanmu Tachio shook his head. He looked up at the ceiling and sighed. "I hope K.Er can make it." Looking at Duanmu Tachio, I couldn't see his usual serious and cold face. Instead, I felt sympathy for him. I went to the corridor and fetched 2 cups of hot water. I handed them to Duanmu Tachio and Xiao Fengya so that they could calm down for a while. After more than half an hour, the light at the entrance of the emergency room finally went out. A doctor walked out. He glanced at all of us and then said, "May I ask who is Duanmu K's family member?" Everyone gathered around. Duanmu Tachio and Xiao Fengya stood up. Duanmu Tachio looked at the doctor and said, "I'm Duanmu K's father. You can talk to us. We're all his family." The doctor took off his mask and looked at Duanmu Tachio. "It's like this, Mr. Duanmu. Duanmu K's surgery was a success." "That's great." Xian Yao cheered. All of us let out a sigh of relief. Luckily, this was the result we wanted. The doctor signaled for us to be quiet. He looked at Duanmu Tachio and said, "However, there's one thing I need to tell you. Although the surgery was a success, he's still in critical condition. We'll see if he can get out of critical condition within 48 hours. Therefore, the patient will have to stay in the hospital for a while. Even if he wakes up, we'll have to observe him for a few days before we can make a decision." "Yes, doctor. I understand." Duanmu Tachio turned to look at Xian Yao and Han Hao. "Xian Yao, you and Han Hao go and take care of your brother's hospitalization procedures." I walked in front of the doctor and asked in a soft voice, "Hello, doctor. I'm Duanmu K's wife. I'd like to ask, what should we do while he's out of critical condition? What should we pay attention to?" The doctor looked at me and said, "Give the patient enough time to rest. Don't make a fuss around him. Let him go. He's so young. He'll make it." The doctor patted my shoulder and went back into the emergency room. After a while, the door to the emergency room finally opened. A few nurses carried Duanmu K's mobile bed to a specific room. When I came out, I saw Duanmu K lying on the bed. His eyes were closed, and his face was pale. There wasn't even a trace of red in it. His face, neck, and exposed shoulders were covered in different degrees of abrasions. Seeing him lying on the bed, my heart ached. Tears streamed down my face, but I forced myself not to cry. At a time like this, he needed my encouragement and support, not my weak self. The nurses pushed him into the intensive care unit. We couldn't enter the room, so we could only look at him through the glass window from afar. Seeing that Duanmuke was fine, I decided to send Duanmutachio and Xiaofinya home. After all, the huge Kurosawa couldn't be without a leader, and the Duanmu family couldn't be without Xiaofinya. Xiaofinya and Duanmutachio didn't want to leave. I persuaded them for a long time and promised that I would contact them as soon as Duanmuke woke up. Only then did they reluctantly leave the hospital. After Duanmutachio and Xiaofinya left, I drove away Han, Hao, and Xinyao. The Duanmuke's operation had been successful, so there was no need for more people to waste their time here. It took them a lot of effort to drive them away. After they left, I let out a long sigh and sat on the bench outside the intensive care unit. From my position, I could see the Duanmuke lying inside through the glass window. Looking at Duanmuke, who was lying there motionless, I didn't feel good in my heart. I started to regret throwing a tantrum with him. I started to regret quarreling with him. I also suddenly felt that if it wasn't for my willfulness, he might not have had so many things happen to him. Maybe it was really my fault. No matter what, as long as he can wake up and safely get through the dangerous period, I can treat it as if nothing happened and forgive him. I didn't know how much time had passed, but my head was leaning against the wall. My eyelids gradually became heavy, and I couldn't keep them open. I closed my eyes and leaned against the bench, feeling very uncomfortable. Just as I was about to fall asleep, I suddenly felt someone cover me with something. I opened my eyes and saw Xin covering me with a jacket. She was stunned when she saw me, but she still covered me with the jacket. She stood in front of me and touched the glass window with one hand. She looked at the Duanmuke lying inside, surrounded by all kinds of wires. Her expression was full of pity. I stared blankly at the glass window for a long time. After letting out a long breath, she turned to look at me. Her eyes were full of helplessness. Chapter 80. Xin walked to my side and sat down. She handed me a can of coffee. I looked at her and took the can. I opened it and took a few sips. If you're too tired, you should sleep for a while. At least I'm here. I can still help you look after him. Xin's eyes were fixed on Duanmuke as she spoke to me softly. I thought to myself, is she helping me out of the goodness of her heart? Shouldn't she hate me the most? Why is she suddenly being so kind to me? I thought for a moment and looked at her. No need. I'm not very sleepy. Xin smiled coldly and looked at me. What? Are you afraid I'll hurt you while you're sleeping? No, I'm afraid you'll hurt Duanmu Quebec. I looked at her and said cautiously. Then you're thinking too much. I can hurt anyone, but not him. Xin turned her head and looked at Duanmu Quebec. I leaned against the wall and closed my eyes. That better be the case. Actually, I envy you. Hearing Xin's words, I opened my eyes and looked at her. She looked at me and said, you will never be erased from Duanmuke's heart. You are the only person in his heart. Even that day when you two quarreled, he stormed home angrily and hid in his bedroom to get drunk. He asked the auntie to bring him some alcohol. I saw that this was a good opportunity to be alone with him, so I took the initiative to ask the auntie to bring him some alcohol. In the end, when I opened the door, he was dead drunk and his mouth was full of your name. Actually, I knew he had drunk too much, so I took off his clothes while he was drunk. I also took off my own clothes. I thought he would mistake me for you and would have sex with me. But I guessed wrong. He didn't even hug me and fell asleep on the bed by himself. I looked at Xin. So what Duanmuke said was the truth. Nothing really happened between the two of them. Xin paused and said, but you definitely won't guess why Duanmuke didn't have sex with me. It's not because he was drunk. What is it? I asked. Xin sneered and looked at me. It's because he said the smell on my body wasn't familiar to him. Therefore, I'm not his woman and he won't touch me. He said the smell that only Shaoli has is the smell that he loves the most. Hearing those words, my heart broke. His heart is full of you, and he can't tolerate even the slightest bit of me. But I'm still willing to fight with you. Do you know why? It's because I want you to leave him. I want his heart to only have me. I want his eyes to only see me. My heart couldn't calm down for a long time. It seemed I had misunderstood Douanmu, Quebec. But why did UXIN tell me the truth tonight? I decided to ask her. UXIN, you didn't have to tell me these things. But why did you tell me? There's no reason. Some things, the more serious you are about it, the more painful it will be. I guess that's what you're feeling right now. What do you mean by that? UXIN's way of thinking was always a little strange. It seems your IQ isn't that high. Don't tell me you're so naive to think that Douanmu's car accident has nothing to do with you. UXIN stood up and walked in front of me. She crossed her arms and looked at me. What does it have to do with me? My heart was a little scared, and my voice trembled a little. UXIN looked at me and laughed. You see, you're already feeling guilty. I guess you've already guessed what it is. Douanmu's car accident does have something to do with you. If it wasn't because you didn't trust him, and if it wasn't because you were throwing a tantrum, would he have gone to find you? His head would be full of thoughts about you. As a result, he was distracted and caused the car accident. Don't you blame yourself for this? I suddenly felt that UXIN's words were very reasonable. Maybe it was because of my willfulness that it indirectly caused Douanmu's car accident. I lowered my head and covered my eyes. Tears flowed through the gaps between my fingers. UXIN gently patted my shoulder and said, the only person I care about in my heart is Douanmu, Quebec. Everyone else is the same in my heart. So, please forgive me for telling you the truth. This is a small punishment for you. UXIN stood up, turned around, and left the ward. At this time, Xinyao came in from outside. She and UXIN came face to face. The two of them didn't say anything. Xinyao looked at UXIN's back as she left. She walked to my side and said, Sister-in-law, why did she come? Sister-in-law, what happened? Why are you crying? Xinyao hugged me. I leaned on her shoulder and sobbed. I grabbed her arm and said, Xinyao, it's me. I caused your brother to be hit by a car. I leaned on her shoulder and cried myself hoarse. What the hell is going on? Sister-in-law, don't cry. Tell me everything. Xinyao stroked my head and softly comforted me. I told her everything that UXIN had just told me. After listening, Xinyao was very angry. She stood up and pulled my hand. Sister-in-law, don't listen to her nonsense. She's just trying to scare you. How could you harm my brother? She must have thought of an excuse to break you and my brother up. Don't believe her, okay? That's her plan. I shook my head and said, that's impossible. What she said makes a lot of sense. It's definitely like this. I caused Douanmu to be like this. Xinyao, you don't have to say anything for me. You don't have to help me hide it. It's my fault. But I really didn't do it on purpose. I didn't think that something like this would happen. Xinyao hugged me tightly and said, Sister-in-law, you have to believe me. Don't take things too hard. Don't do anything stupid. You have to believe me. Wait for me. I'll call Han right now and tell him to come over. Don't be impulsive. While hugging me, Xinyao dialed Han Hao's number. Han Hao, hurry up and come over. UXIN just came over and said something to my sister-in-law. My sister-in-law immediately collapsed. Now she's saying that she caused my brother's accident. Hurry up and come take a look. With that, Xinyao hung up the phone. She stroked my hair and said, Sister-in-law, don't worry. Han Hao will be here soon. My mind was filled with the thought that I had harmed Douanmu, Quebec. My heart collapsed. Looking at Douanmu lying in the ICU, my heart was filled with guilt. My tears couldn't stop flowing. At that moment, several uniformed police officers walked over to us. They stopped in front of me and Xinyao and took out their police badges. Looking at me, they asked, Excuse me, are you Cold Glaze? I am. What can I do for you? I looked at them and suddenly felt uneasy. Chapter 81. One of the police officers walked up to me and looked at me. We suspect that you're involved in a case of intentional assault. Please come with us for an investigation. Then, two police officers walked up to me and prepared to take me away. XIN Yao hugged me tightly and shouted at them, "Impossible. Don't arrest people. My sister-in-law isn't that kind of person. Please don't interfere with our work," one of the police officers shouted at XIN Yao. XIN Yao didn't let go of me. She looked at the police officers and said, "I'm the eldest daughter of the Duanmu family. You think you can do anything to me?" It seemed that Xin Yao had used her identity to intimidate them. It was effective. The policemen looked at each other, then stood there and looked at us. At this time, one of them, who I guessed was the person in charge, flipped through a notebook he'd brought with him. He looked at me and said, "Cold glaze, right? What's your relationship with Duanmu K?" I was stunned. I looked at him and said, "I'm his wife." "Then it's you. Someone reported that you're involved in Duanmu K's car accident. There's evidence that before his car accident, the two of you had a fierce quarrel. That's why you set him up and murdered him," the police officer said calmly. I was dumbfounded. I fell into a chair and stared blankly in front of me. XIN Yao was scared. She hugged me and tears almost flowed out of her eyes. She looked at the police officer and said, "Who said that?" "My sister-in-law and my brother were very loving. They only had a little conflict. What evidence do you have to say that my sister-in-law did it?" The police officer sneered and looked at XIN Yao. "You just said that there was a little conflict. That can be considered a motive. So please cooperate with us, Miss Duanmu. We're just taking Miss Lung back for an investigation. If there's enough evidence to prove that Miss Lung has nothing to do with this, we'll immediately release her." Hearing him say this, Xin Yao was still very worried. She didn't let go. At this time, Han Hao walked to her side, pulled Xin Yao's arm and said, "Xin Yao, listen to me. The police won't make things difficult for Xiao Li. You don't have to worry. The main task now is to tell Uncle and Auntie about this matter. Then everyone will discuss what to do. Listen to me. Trust the police." XIN Yao turned to look at Han Hao and let go of me. I stood up and looked at XIN Yao. "Girl, I'll leave Xiao K to you. Promise me that no matter what happens, you'll listen to Han Hao." I turned to look at Han Hao. "Han Hao, you have to take good care of XIN Yao. If Xiao K wakes up, please tell me as soon as possible. I'll also have to trouble you to help me tell my parents. Try to be tactful. I'm afraid they won't be able to take this blow." After making the arrangements, I walked in front of the police officer. "I can go with you now," I said, extending my hands in front of him. He looked at me and smiled. "Miss Lung, there's no need. You can just come with us." I nodded and followed him out of the hospital. I passed by the glass window outside Duanmu K's room. I looked at him lying there and prayed in my heart that he would wake up soon. It wasn't to prove my innocence, but to see him when he woke up. After leaving the hospital, I got into the police car. I didn't say anything along the way. My heart had calmed down. I gradually understood the true meaning behind what XIN had said to me. Whether or not Duanmu K's car accident was caused by someone or not, XIN would use it as a pretext to make a fuss. She would frame me and say that I was the one who designed the accident. She said that to me just to make me panic, but after thinking it through, I was also taken to the police station, which was probably the result she wanted. When we arrived at the entrance of the police station, I got out of the car and followed them into the interrogation room. I naturally sat on a stool. The leading police officer and the other police officer sat across from me. He flipped through the information he had brought in and looked at me for a long time. I sat there calmly and looked back at him. After a while, he looked at me and said, "The daughter of Red Minghui's Chairman Lung, the daughter-in-law of Kurosawa's Chairman Duanmu, and the wife of Black Lotus Group's General Manager Duanmu. Your identity is quite valuable." I sneered and looked at him. "This shouldn't have much to do with the case you're investigating." "It doesn't have much to do with it, but we still need to have basic information." "It's okay, I understand. If there's anything you need to know, you can ask me directly. After all, The information you have might not be the most accurate. I leaned back in the chair and looked at him. It seems that Miss Lung was prepared. Could it be that Duan Mukei's car accident was really related to you? He raised his eyebrows. I knew he was trying to get information from me. I looked at him and said, if I wasn't calm enough and didn't make the first move, I would have easily fallen into your usual trap. The police officer suddenly laughed. He stood up and looked at me. That's all for now. You take a rest first. We'll come back later. The police officer next to him was stunned. He stood up and looked at him. Deputy Commissioner, didn't you say you wanted to finish the interrogation today? Shut up. I have the final say in this matter. Don't interrogate me first. The police officer looked very angry and scolded the police officer next to him. The police officer, who was scolded, suddenly stopped talking. He simply organized the documents on the table and followed him out. Seeing their strange behavior, my brows furrowed. Could it be that they were in cahoots with the people who wanted to frame me? It seemed that they were going to finish interrogating me today. But why did they suddenly stop? I looked at my watch. It was already late at night. It was probably too late. Forget it. I didn't want to think about it. When the sun rises, my parents will know about this matter and come to see me. After a while, another policeman came into the room. He helped me up and took me to the detention room. Although I didn't want to do it, I didn't have time to think about it. I just had to wait until the sun rose. The police station wasn't big. There were only 2 detention rooms. The middle was surrounded by iron bars. The police officer took me to one of the detention rooms. As soon as I sat down on the chair, I saw a person lying on the bench next to the detention room. His face was covered by a hat. He was very thin, but from his clothes, he should be a man. The police officer who brought me in saw me enter and locked the iron bars of the detention room. He stood at the door and looked at me. Miss Lung, I'm sorry. I'll have to trouble you tonight. I'll bring you a quilt later. Just now, Red Minghui Bai called and told us not to neglect you. Chapter 82. It turned out Uncle Bai had called the police. I took a few steps forward and looked at him. Did Uncle Bai say anything else? The policeman thought for a moment and said, Master Bai told me to pass a message to you. He told you to rest well and not to think too much about other things. It will be resolved tomorrow. I nodded, understanding Uncle Bai's meaning. It seemed that the family had already started to take care of me. I took out 200 yuan from my pocket and gave it to the policeman. Thank you for passing the message. I don't have much cash on me. Although it's not much, take it. He looked at me and said, Miss Lung, I can't take this money. This is what I should do. I can't take your money. I grabbed his clothes and stuffed the money into his pocket. I looked at him and said, just take it that I bought the message from you. You can leave. I pushed him away. He looked at me and nodded helplessly. Thank you, Miss Lung. Then he turned and left. I walked to the bench and sat down. Although it was summer, the night was still cold. I curled up into a ball as I waited for the quilt. Can I report a policeman for taking bribes? A man's voice came from the detention room next door. I glanced over and guessed that it was the man lying down. The man sat up and took off the hat, covering his face. He looked at me and said, Miss Lung. I stood across from him and looked at him carefully. He was quite handsome. His face wasn't very mature, but it had a trace of coldness. Although his clothes were old, they were very clean. He didn't look like a bad person. Miss Lung, why are you staring at me like that? Have you fallen in love with me? He stood up and took 2 steps forward, getting closer to me. If you dare to tell anyone about what happened just now, I can't guarantee what I will do to you. I didn't like the way he flirted with girls. I stood there and looked at him, giving him a warning. He laughed and looked at me as he laughed. Are you angry? I was just joking with you. Is it necessary? Besides, if I really did say it, who do you think would believe me? Listening to him, I sighed in my heart. It was true. What evidence did he have to report me? I glared at him and sat down on the bench. He was standing near the railing, very close to me. He looked at me and said, "Eldest Miss Lung, did you come to the police station to observe the people's situation? This is not fun. Fortunately, it's just me tonight. If there were more people, you wouldn't even be enough for them to share. Are you a regular here? Also, how do you know me?" I looked at him and asked, "Miss Lung, you're so famous. How could I not know you? Besides, I was once taken care of by the Red Minghui, so I know a little about you. Also, I'm not a regular here. I just arrived today. Why do I feel like you know this place so well?" I asked, looking at him. His expression suddenly became very sad. He gripped the railing and said thoughtfully, "Because my father used to come in." "Oh, I'm sorry." Looking at his sad expression, I had an indescribable feeling. He sneered. "What's there to be embarrassed about? It's been a long time." I looked at him and asked, "Then how did you get in?" He sighed and said, "My father was sentenced to prison for robbery and assault. My mother passed away when I was very young, and I had a sickly sister. When my father got into trouble, our family had no income. My sister needed to see a doctor and take care of her. I had no choice but to drop out of school to take care of her. Later, we sold our house, but we didn't have enough money. My education was low, so I couldn't earn much money. I couldn't take care of my sister because of the time conflict, so I had to live like this for a long time, starving and full. Until yesterday, my sister was so sick that she needed an operation urgently, but I didn't even have the money to buy the medicine. I had no choice but to steal it. But as soon as I put my hand into that woman's bag, she caught me and sent me here." Listening to his story, I didn't feel good. I didn't know how to comfort him. So I looked at him and said, "Everything has a solution. Don't worry." He smiled and said, "If I were alone, I'd be fine. But I'm worried about my sister. She's in the hospital right now. The doctor said that if I don't pay the hospital bill by noon tomorrow, my sister's medication will be stopped. Without the medication, my sister will die. Sai, I really regret trying to steal that woman's purse. If I had stolen it, my sister might have been able to live. But I didn't, and I'm still locked up here. I feel so wronged. I feel really wronged." I sighed and looked at him. "How about this? Tell me the address of the hospital your sister is in. If I can get out of here tomorrow, I'll go and pay for your sister's medical bills. If I can't get out, I'll ask Uncle Bai or my parents to do it for me." He looked at me excitedly and said, "Really? But why are you helping me?" "I don't know why. Just think of it as me trying to shut your mouth. But that's too much. What do you need me to do for you?" "Anything." He looked at me with a sincere expression. I smiled and looked at him. "Silly. If I asked you to kill someone, would you do it? Don't be so silly." He thought for a moment, then looked at me. "Okay. Just think of it as me owing you. When I have money, I'll pay you back. Please believe me." I nodded and looked at him. "I still don't know your name." "My name is Suri." He extended his hand in front of me and looked at me. "Miss Lung, thank you. Thank you for helping me." I reached out and shook his hand. "It's nothing. You said that Red Minghui helped you before, so it's okay for me to help you again. No matter what, I still want to thank you. If you need me in the future, just let me know. I'll do my best," Suri said to me firmly. I nodded at him. After chatting with him for a while, I realized that Su Rue was a very lively and meticulous person. He cared about his younger sister and his father the most. Although his father was in prison for doing something wrong, Su Rue was still willing to forgive him and wait for him to come back. Chapter 83. Suri and I talked all night. He told me a lot of stories about himself and how he had received help from the Red Minghui when he was in trouble. When it was very late, the young policeman came over to give me a quilt. I asked him for another quilt and handed it to Suri. Suri was very touched and had a good conversation with Suri. It was as if he regretted not having met sooner. I took a nap. After about an hour, it was morning. The young policeman was very attentive. He even prepared breakfast for me and Suri. After breakfast, I waited in the detention room for my family to come and pick me up. After waiting for a while, The young policeman came in front of me. He looked at me and said, "Miss Lung, Uncle Bai brought a few people to pick you up. Because there is insufficient evidence and you have a sufficient alibi, you have been eliminated as a suspect." I smiled at him and said, "Thank you." I turned to look at Su Rue and said, "Little Su Rue, I'll definitely do what I promised you. I'll go and arrange for your sister's surgery now. I'll take care of all the expenses, so you don't have to worry." Suri looked at me with an excited expression and said, "Really? Thank you so much, Miss Lung. I didn't expect you to be so kind." I looked at him and smiled. "Just call me Xiao Li in the future. When I'm done with your sister, I will come and get you out." "Really?" Suri's eyes flashed with tears. "Don't worry, I will do what I say." I waved at him and followed the young policeman out. When I arrived at the reception room, I saw my father and mother sitting in chairs. Behind them stood Uncle Bai, Han Hao, and Xin Yao. I sat opposite my parents, and the very authoritative police officer who interrogated me yesterday sat next to us. He looked at my parents and said, "Mr. Lung, after a night of investigation, it has been verified that your daughter indeed has a sufficient alibi and has nothing to do with a car accident in Douanmu, Quebec. You can take Miss Lung and leave." The father looked up at him and said, "I already know about this. What I want to know now is whether my son-in-law's car accident was caused by someone or an accident." The policeman was stunned. He looked at my father and said, "Well, we are still investigating. When the investigation is clear, I will inform you, Mr. Lung." My father stood up, and before he left, he looked at him and said, "You'd better let me know that you didn't intentionally arrest the wrong person. Otherwise, I'll destroy the entire police station. Li Air, let's go home." Everyone walked towards the door. I suddenly remembered something. I grabbed Uncle Bai's arm and looked at him. "Uncle Bai, a good friend of mine is locked up here. He wanted to pay for his sister's medical fees, so he tried to steal, but he failed. He was arrested and treated as a thief and brought here. Uncle Bai, can you see if you can bail him out?" Uncle Bai thought for a moment and nodded. "No problem. That's easy to handle." "That's great. I'm going to the hospital to pay for his sister's medical expenses. Please, Uncle Bai." I looked at Uncle Bai with a smile. "Don't trouble yourself with paying for the medical expenses. Leave it to me. You go home and have a good talk with your brother and sister-in-law. Leave the matter of the person you mentioned to me. Don't worry, your Uncle Bai is not at ease." Uncle Bai patted my shoulder. "Of course I'm at ease. Once you've arranged for him to meet his sister, please bring him to see me." "Thank you." I smiled at Uncle Bai and followed him out of the police station. I followed my parents' car back home. Han Hao and Xin Yao also followed me back to my house. When we entered the living room, everyone sat on the sofa. Uncle Bai said a few words to my father and then left. I looked at Xin Yao and asked, "Little girl, how's Douanmu K?" Xin Yao looked at me. "Sister-in-law, you don't need to worry. My brother has passed the critical stage, but he hasn't woken up yet. The doctor gave him a thorough examination and said that there's nothing wrong with him. He should wake up soon." I let out a long sigh. "That's good. I'm relieved. You should tell me about yourself first." My father glanced at me. At first, I was bewildered. Then, I looked at my father and told him everything that had happened. My father angrily slapped the armrest of the sofa. He looked at me and said, "Why didn't you tell me about such a serious matter earlier? Besides, you knew that he was framed by that woman. Why didn't you believe him? Why did you want to aggravate the conflict?" Hearing my father say that, I couldn't stop my tears from flowing down. "Uncle Lung, you can't talk about sister-in-law. Sister-in-law didn't do anything wrong. It's all that woman's fault. No woman would want their man to have an ambiguous relationship with another woman." Xin Yao looked at my father and said in front of me. My mother looked at my father and said, "I think what Xin Yao said is very reasonable. You shouldn't talk about our Li Air about this matter." My father looked at my mother, then looked at me and said, "Li Air, I'm not talking about you. I've told you more than once. Your marriage is not up to you. Your marriage is closely related to the business relationship between your two families. It's not up to you to do whatever you want. Do you think it's child's play? I looked at my father and sighed. Dad, I know. I also said that I love Duanmu, Quebec. I don't want to argue with him. I also know that our marriage is closely related to our two families' finances. I also know what to do. When he wakes up, I'll apologize to him. Dad, don't be angry, okay? My father looked at me and nodded. Then he pulled my mother upstairs. I sat on the sofa and looked at Xin Yao. Girl, thank you for speaking up for me. Xin Yao sat next to me and leaned on my shoulder. Sister-in-law, you don't have to be so polite with me. I'll protect your relationship with my brother. I definitely won't allow you XIN to get involved. I sighed and said, I don't know why, but I don't feel confident right now. I'm also afraid that Duanmu K won't forgive me. Sister-in-law, don't say that. You still have us. We'll support you. All right. Sister-in-law, you don't know, but not long after you were taken away yesterday, you XIN came back. She stayed in the hospital until Han, Hao, and I came out this morning. She didn't leave. I guess she's still in the hospital. It seems she's more attentive than I am. I lowered my head and covered my face. Sister-in-law, don't say that. The time is just right. Why don't we go to the hospital to see my brother? Xin Yao pulled me to my feet. I looked at Han Hao and said, Han Hao, thank you for taking care of Xin Yao and doing so many things for me. It's my duty. Han Hao looked at me and nodded. Chapter 84. Xin Yao and I took Han Hao's car to the hospital. On the way, Han Hao told me how he had contacted Uncle Bai and helped me find the evidence. It turned out that they had contacted the driver who was at the scene and proved that he had caused the accident because he was tired and driving. It had nothing to do with me. Only the Red Minghui and the Kurosawa had the ability to find evidence in such a short time. As we talked, we arrived at the hospital. I couldn't wait to rush to Duanmu K's room. I wondered how he was recovering tonight. As soon as I entered the room, I saw Duanmu Tachio, Xiaofengya, and Xin in the room. Duanmu K was lying on the bed with his eyes closed. Looking at his sleeping appearance, I felt very uncomfortable. Xiaofengya turned her head and saw me standing at the door. She walked over to me and held my hand tightly. Xiaoli, I heard from Xin Yao. You've been wronged. I don't know who called the police, but the driver who caused the accident had already arranged for the insurance company to settle the claim. He still called the police and said that you framed him. This is too much. I smiled bitterly and looked at her. Mom, it's okay. It's not a problem. My dad has already helped me solve it. There's no problem. Don't worry. I'm sorry for making you and Dad worry. Xiaofengya stroked my hair and said, Silly child, you've been wronged. I only found out this morning. If it weren't for Xin Yao, I wouldn't have known. You guys are the same. You didn't tell me at first. Your dad and I can think of a way. No matter what, we can't let you stay in the police station for an entire night for no reason. Mom, it's okay. It's good to stay overnight. We found sufficient evidence to prove my innocence. This also saves me the trouble of going to the police station. It's good. This matter is over. You and Dad shouldn't think too much about it. I turned to look at Duanmu K and asked, Mom, how's Xiao K? The doctor just came to check on him this morning. He's out of danger, but he hasn't woken up yet. When he wakes up, he'll have to do a thorough examination. That's good. Sigh, it's all my fault. If only I wasn't so willful, I said with a sigh. Xiaofengya took my hand and said, I've already heard what happened from Xin Yao. It's obviously not your fault, so don't think too much about it. K is still not mature enough. If he was mature, he would not know that he should let you have your way. I was stunned. I looked at her and said, That's normal. We're just getting used to each other. It'll be fine after a while. At this moment, I received a message. I turned on my phone and saw that it was from Xin Yao. I looked up at her. I didn't understand why she would send me a message when she was so close to me. She pointed at her phone and gestured for me to see the message. I unlocked my phone and read it. It said, I cleverly avoided the topic of UXIN. I remember you and my brother said that you didn't have enough evidence to accuse UXIN of everything. That's why I didn't tell Mom. I thought to myself that this little girl was more reliable. I looked up at her. She winked at me mischievously. Then, she pulled Han Hao out of the room. Xiao Fengya and I chatted casually. She asked me about what happened last night. I told her the truth. At this moment, UXIN walked in front of me and Xiao Fengya. She looked at Xiao Fengya and said, Auntie, I see that Duanmu Gij is fine. Everyone is here. I'll go back and rest. I'll come back tonight to keep an eye on things. I looked at her and said, It's fine. I'll be here. Go back and rest. UXIN looked at me and then at Xiao Fengya. Auntie, if there's nothing else, I'll go back first. Goodbye. Then, she said goodbye to Duanmu Tachio and Xiao Fengya and left the room. I looked at UXIN's back and said to Xiao Fengya, Mom, you and Dad stay here. I'm going to see her out. Xiao Fengya nodded at me. I walked out of the room. I saw UXIN's figure the moment I walked out of the ward. I quickened my pace and caught up with her. As I followed behind her, I looked at her back and said, Why are you in such a hurry? You probably didn't expect me to come back so soon. UXIN didn't say anything. I followed her to a resting area at the back of the hospital. She stopped and looked at me. I really didn't expect you to come out so soon. Moreover, I didn't expect you to get to the hospital so soon. But it doesn't matter. What do you mean by that? I looked at her and asked. UXIN smiled and looked at me. Yesterday, I spent the whole night with him. Although I couldn't enter the ICU, I was able to see him through the glass window. I felt very happy. You don't need to say that. I know you like him. You really put in a lot of effort to get him. I only have one question for you. I clenched my fists and looked at her. You want to ask me if Duanmu K's car accident was intentionally caused by me? UXIN raised her head and looked at me arrogantly. It's good that you know. Tell me the truth. Did you intentionally cause Duanmu K's car to crash into him? UXIN sneered and looked at me. Your imagination is really wild. I really don't like how Duanmu Gij treats you too well. I hate you. But no matter what, I wouldn't scheme to hurt Duanmu Gij. He's the only person I cherish. He's the only one I can't lose. Xinyao is still hiding things for you in front of Mom and Dad. Aren't you afraid that we'll tell Mom and Dad the truth? If they really know, do you think you'll have a good ending? I took a step forward and looked into her eyes. UXIN looked at me and said, It doesn't matter. Uncle Duanmu didn't trust me from the beginning. Whether I lied to him or not, the result would be the same. As for Auntie Xiao, you don't have to worry. She's the same as you, a soft-hearted person. She treats me so well. How could she bear to hurt me? Am I right? Listening to UXIN's words, there was a clear provocation in her tone. Since you know that she treats you so well, why do you still want to mess up our lives? No, if you didn't appear, I guarantee that Duanmu Gij would definitely fall in love with me. It's all because of you. Right now, I don't have anything. Instead, Uncle Duanmu wants to use me as a bargaining chip in Kurosawa's transactions. Why? I'm also a human. Why do you treat me like a dog? UXIN pointed at my nose and asked. Chapter 85. Sighing, I looked at UXIN and said, You're thinking too much. No one treats you like a dog. You just didn't see it when everyone was nice to you in the beginning. UXIN turned around and said, Forget it. Things have developed to this point, and I don't feel like I've lost anything. You don't need to be too proud. If Duanmu K doesn't wake up, you'll feel guilty for the rest of your life. Then, UXIN turned around and left the hospital. I stood there and watched her leave, feeling very uncomfortable. I returned to the ward. Only Xiao Fengya was there, taking care of Duanmu Quebec Xinyao, and Han, how had already left. I gently closed the door and walked behind Xiaofingya. I patted her shoulder and said, "Mom, you've been here for a long time. You should go back and rest." Xiaofingya turned around and looked at me. "All right, I'll go back first. I'll leave the hospital to you." I helped Xiaofingya up and walked her out of the ward. I watched her get into the car before returning to the ward. Only Duan Muke and I were left in the ward. I sat next to Duan Muke and held his hand. I looked at his closed eyes, which were filled with tears. I gently stroked Duan Muke's face and kissed him on the lips. I sat on the chair next to his bed and watched him fall into deep thought. "Xiaoke, wake up. I've already realized my mistake." I pressed my face against Duan Muke's palm. Tears streamed down my cheeks. I looked at him and said, "Do you know how sad I was when you got into a car accident? I didn't feel anything when I was wronged, but when I saw your life hanging by a thread in the emergency room, I broke down. I will never misunderstand you and you Xin again. I know you love me. I will never do that again. Please believe me, okay? So wake up. I have a lot of things to tell you." I lay next to Duan Muke and couldn't stop my tears from flowing down. Just as I was heartbroken, the door to the ward was pushed open and a person walked in. It turned out to be Uncle Bai. Uncle Bai glanced at Duan Muke, then looked at me and said, "Shaoli, why are you crying? Don't be sad. He will wake up." I wiped my tears and looked at Uncle Bai. "Uncle Bai, what did you want to see me for?" Uncle Bai seemed to remember something. He looked at me and said, "It's like this. I've already done what you asked me to do. He's outside the door." "Who is he?" "He wants to see you." I had no choice but to bring him here. "Okay, Uncle Bai, let him in," I said to Uncle Bai. Uncle Bai opened the door and a figure came in. It was none other than Suri. After he came in, Uncle Bai walked out of the ward and closed the door. Suri stood at the door and looked at Duan Muke lying on the bed. He then looked at me and said, "Is he Duan Muke?" I nodded. "Miss Lung's husband is really different. He looks very handsome, just lying there." Hearing the compliments coming from Suri's mouth, I suddenly felt very uncomfortable. I smiled coldly and looked at him. "It's not very appropriate for you to say that. You should go back to being your normal self." "Ha ha ha. You know me best. Speaking like that is really awkward. It's better to be casual." Suri rubbed his head and stood there with a silly smile on his face. "Let's not talk about this. What do you want from me?" I put down Duan Muke's hand and covered him with the blanket. "Oh, it's like this. I came to thank you." Suri stopped smiling and looked at me. "I really didn't expect you to keep your promise. Not only did you arrange for my sister's surgery, you also paid for all her medical bills. You also asked Uncle Bai to bail me out. Uncle Bai even agreed to let me work for him in the future. That way, I will have a fixed income to take care of my sister." I looked at him and said, "Since I promised you, I must do it. You don't need to be polite with me. You can work for Uncle Bai. Since Uncle Bai said that he would personally take care of you, you will definitely have a good future. Uncle Bai has a good eye for people. You must not disappoint us." Su Rui nodded and said to me, "That's a must. I will definitely work hard. If there's nothing else, you can go take care of your sister. I want to be alone." I looked at Duan Muke and gently stroked his face. Suri stood at the door and didn't move. He stared blankly at Duan Muke lying on the bed and didn't say anything. I saw that his behavior was a little strange, so I asked, "Suri, what are you thinking about?" Suri came back to his senses and pointed at Duanmu, Quebec. I think I just saw his finger move. "What?" I was very excited. I stood up and carefully looked at Duanmuke's finger, but it didn't move. I said to Suri, "You might have seen wrong." "That's impossible. My eyes are very good." "Aya." He moved again. Suri pointed at Duanmuke and said excitedly. I quickly lowered my head and looked at Duanmuke's hands. Sure enough, the fingers on his left hand were trembling. I was so excited that I couldn't speak. Duanmuke could move. Is he going to wake up soon? I held Duanmuke's hand tightly and looked at his closed eyes. "Xiaoke, are you awake?" If you're awake, can you open your eyes? Duan Mukei's right hand trembled again. I held his hand tightly and looked at his face. At this moment, Duan Mukei's eyes slowly opened. I stood next to him and looked at him. I was very excited. I shouted, "Xiao Kei, you're awake? Someone come. Doctor. Where's the doctor?" Suri also saw that Duan Mukei was awake. He ran out of the room and asked the doctor and the nurse to come in. The doctor gave Duan Mukei a simple examination and said, "It's good that you're awake. It looks like there's no problem now. We'll do a more detailed examination before you leave the hospital." Duan Mukei was lying on the bed. He opened his eyes and looked around. I sat next to him and held his hand tightly. "Xiao Kei, you're finally awake. That's great." At this moment, Duan Mukei looked at me with a horrified expression. He pulled his hand out of my palm and clutched his own. "Who are you?" he asked me. "Don't mess around. I'm your wife. I'm sorry. I wronged you. Don't be angry, okay?" I didn't expect him to play such a childish game with me. I couldn't help but despise him. "Wife. I'm not married. How could I have a wife? Who the hell are you?" Duan Mukei looked at me with a serious expression on his face. Chapter 86. It was as if he wanted to see through me. I slumped in the chair and looked at the defensive Duanmu, Quebec. Did he forget about me? "Xiao Kei, I'm Xiaoli. Did you forget about me?" I grabbed Duan Mukei's shoulder and shook him. Duan Mukei struggled with all his might. He was very strong and pushed me to the ground. I lay on the ground and looked at him. He sat up and looked at me coldly. "Don't touch me. Hurry up and leave. Otherwise, I won't be polite to you." Suri had just walked in from outside. When he saw me on the ground, he quickly ran to my side and helped me up. He looked at me and said, "Miss Lung, why are you on the ground?" I got up and patted the dirt off my body. "It's nothing. Xiao Kei accidentally pushed me. It's nothing." "What? Why did he push you?" Suri turned and looked at Duanmu Quebec. "Duan Mukei, what are you doing? What right do you have to push her?" Duan Mukei looked at Suri from head to toe and said coldly, "Who are you? Forget it. It doesn't matter who you are. You know this woman, right? Hurry up and take her away. Tell her not to cause trouble here. Otherwise, I won't be polite to you too." "You." Suri was about to continue when I stopped him. I stood in front of him and motioned for him to stop talking. I looked at Suri and said, "Help me call the doctor. Also, tell the nurses to call Duanmu's family and tell them that Duan Mukei woke up. I'll be here. Hurry up and go." Suri looked at me with a worried expression. "Are you okay by yourself? It's obvious that he doesn't know you." I shook my head and looked at him. "I'm fine. You should go." Suri reluctantly nodded and left the room. I stood in front of the bed and looked at Duanmu, Quebec. "You don't remember me at all?" Duan Mukei looked at me blankly. "I don't remember, but I feel like I've seen you somewhere before. Can you think about it?" I leaned on the edge of the bed, looking at him expectantly. Duan Mukei shook his head. "I don't want to think about it. Every time I think about something, my head feels like it's going to explode." My tears flowed down again. Duan Mukei saw me standing there and crying. He said with a serious face, "Why are you crying?" "I just pushed you." "What's wrong?" "Did he feel wronged?" "When my family comes, I'll have them pay you for it. Name your price." My heart ached again. I looked at Duan Mukei and said, "I don't want money." Duan Mukei sneered again. He looked at me and said, "You don't want money? What? You want me to marry you? We're already husband and wife. What's there to talk about?" "Oh? How come I don't remember being married?" "What? Do you really think I can marry you or something? Why don't you look in the mirror and see what kind of person you are? Even if you gave me something like you for free, I wouldn't want it." Hearing Duan Mukei say those words, my heart ached. I clenched my fists and looked at Duanmu, Quebec. "No matter what, do you think you're doing the right thing by insulting a woman like this?" "I'm insulting you? Who knows whether or not you're trying to get close to me? I've seen a lot of women like you. If you can't get a man, you'll do everything you can to trick him into bed. Then you'll make that man take responsibility for you. How bad are you? Shut up. I couldn't bear it anymore. I put my hands on the edge of the bed and looked at Duanmu K fiercely. What? You want to beat me up? Come on. Do you think my family will forgive you? Duanmu K stared at me with a hint of arrogance in his eyes. You. Just as I was about to curse him, the door to the room was pushed open. A figure ran in. It was Xiao Fengya. Xiao Fengya walked straight to Duanmu K's bedside. She touched his face and carefully looked at him. Duanmu K, you're awake? That's great. Thank goodness you're okay. If something happened to you, how would your father and I live? After saying that, she hugged Duanmu K tightly in her arms. Mom, what happened to me? Why am I in the hospital? I should be fine. Let's go home in a bit. Duanmu K looked at Xiao Fengya and said with a smile, What? You don't remember? Silly son, let's wait a while and let the doctor check again. If there's really nothing wrong, then we'll go home. Xiao Li is also here. Let's go together. Xiao Fengya turned around and looked at me with a bright smile. Xiao Li? Mom, how do you know that woman? Who is she? Duanmu K looked at me. His expression suddenly became very serious. Xiao Fengya cupped Duanmu K's face and said, What? Son? You don't know her? Don't scare Mom. What happened? Nothing happened? Who is this woman? Why do you all know her? Duanmu K looked at me angrily. Her name is Cold Glaze. She's your wife. Duanmu Gij, you finally woke up. A voice floated in from the door of the room. The person who opened the door was none other than you Xan. Xin? Long time no see. Where have you been? Last time, I promised to go shopping with you. Look at my memory, I forgot about it. Tomorrow, how about tomorrow? Duanmu K looked at you Xin, and a smile appeared on his face. My heart was instantly petrified. Why does he only remember you Xin, but not me? Could it be that he had forgotten all the things that you Xin had done before? Really? That's great. Duanmu Gij, we'll go out to play when you're better. The doctor said that you need to rest for the next few days, so we can't move around. You Xin changed her usual cold temperament, and suddenly became like a cute girl. She acted like a spoiled child in front of Duanmu, Quebec. Was this a dream? Why do I feel like the whole world has changed? I pinched my arm. It hurt a lot. Looks like it's not fake. If it's real, then it's even scarier. Duanmu K has already forgotten me. He definitely won't remember the time we spent together. What should I do? He will be kidnapped by you, Xan. What should I do? Son, you really don't remember? Li Er is your wife. When you two were together, you were very sweet and happy. What happened to you? How could you suddenly forget? Don't scare Mommy, okay? Xiao Fengya looked at Duanmu K, and her face was full of worry. At this time, Suri brought a doctor and a nurse to Duanmu K's room. The doctor did a simple examination of Duanmu K's situation, and then asked Duanmu K a few questions. Afterwards, he looked at us and said, According to observation, there is no external problem. But from the description, young Master Duanmu may be suffering from amnesia. We need to do a brain CT scan to know the result. Chapter 87. How did this happen? I asked the doctor as I looked at Duanmu K in disbelief. The doctor looked at me and said, His brain must have been hit during the car accident. Although he wasn't injured externally, he suffered internal damage and lost his memory. How long will it take for him to recover? I looked at Duanmu K helplessly. Miss Lung, don't worry. I'll arrange for a CT scan now. We can only confirm it after the results come out. All right, then I'll leave it to you. The doctor left the room with the nurse. Not long after the doctor left, Duanmu K, Xiao Fengya, Xian Yao, Han Hao, and you Xian all rushed into the room. They surrounded Duanmu, Quebec. Xiao Fengya was so excited that tears streamed down her face. She looked at Duanmu K and said, K, you're finally awake. This is great. Mom, why are you crying? I'm fine, aren't I? Duanmu K turned around and saw Xian Yao and Han Hao together. He asked in confusion, Xian Yao, how come you're back? You're with Han Hao? You're not bad. I only have one precious little sister. You can't bully her. Otherwise, I won't be polite to you. Xian Yao and Han Hao looked at each other. Then she looked at Duanmu K and said, Brother, did you forget that we're together? I didn't know. Really, why didn't you tell me? Xian Yao felt that something was strange. She walked to my side and pulled me in front of Duanmu, Quebec. She asked Duanmu K, Brother, do you know her? Duanmu K's expression changed instantly. He looked at me angrily and said, Why do you all say that I know her? I've already said that I don't know her at all. It's really strange. How do you all know her? Don't be rude. This is your legal wife. Duanmu Tachio rebuked Duanmu Quebec Dad. I've already told you that I'm against arranged marriages. Moreover, I don't even like her. I will never marry her. Duanmu K said firmly to Duanmu Tachio. Duanmu Tachio said, Uncle, don't be angry. Let's let the doctor examine Duanmu Gij first. Xian looked at Duanmu K and smiled. Xian, why do I feel like I haven't seen you for a long time? You seem to have lost weight. Did someone bully you? When I get home, I'll get even for you. Duanmu K looked at Xian and revealed a smile that hadn't appeared in a long time. Looking at the two of them, my heart felt like it was being stabbed by a needle. I looked at Duanmu Tachio and Xiao Fengya and said, Dad, Mom, I'm leaving first. Xiao Fengya pulled my hand and said, Xiaoli, wait a moment. Don't go. She looked at Duanmu K and said, It doesn't matter if you remember or not. She is your wife. It doesn't matter if you admit it or not, we admit it. Mom, you better not force me. I already said that I won't marry someone I don't like. If you continue like this, I'll really leave. Duanmu K sat on the bed and looked at Xiao Fengya and Duanmu Tachio with a determined attitude. I patted Xiao Fengya's shoulder and said, Mom, don't say anymore. It's fine as long as he gets better. I don't care about anything else. You don't have to pretend to be kind. From the moment I saw you, I knew there was something wrong with you. You also don't have to brainwash my parents. It's useless. You better leave when I'm in a good mood. Duanmu K looked at me coldly. Xian stood next to him with a bright smile on her face. Okay, I'm leaving. I turned around and walked toward the door. At that moment, I couldn't control the tears in my eyes, and they flowed down. Sister-in-law, don't go. Xin Yao shouted behind me with all her might. I didn't stop and continued to walk forward. Xin Yao, you can't chase after her. Duanmu K roared at Xin Yao. Brother, you. Without waiting for Xin Yao to finish speaking, Suri stood behind me. Suri looked at Xin Yao and said, Since young Master Duanmu K told you not to chase after her, then please don't bother our family's Missy anymore. With that, Suri turned around and followed me out of the room. After leaving the room, I walked towards a green area behind the hospital. Suri followed closely behind me and didn't say anything. We walked to a place where there weren't many people. I casually found a stone bench and sat down. I raised my head and saw a large tree with lush foliage. Suri stood next to me. I could hear him sigh, but he didn't say anything. After a while, I didn't know what was going through my mind. When I thought about Duanmu K waking up, my heart was very excited. But when I thought about how he forgot about me, my heart felt like it was being torn apart. My tears flowed down once again. At this time, Suri handed me a tissue. I didn't raise my head. I took the tissue and wiped the tears from the corners of my eyes. Thank you, I said softly. Suri sighed again. You're too courteous. But you're completely different from the one I met yesterday. As I wiped my tears, I said to him, What's the difference? It's just me anyway. Do you feel better after crying? Suri squatted down and looked at me. Sorry, I don't know how to comfort girls. Suri scratched his head and looked at me with a silly smile. I looked at him and nodded. I suddenly felt that when other people were wronged, they had their loved ones by their side. But when I was wronged, it was because of a friend I'd just met. Suri stopped in front of me and looked at me. Missy Lung, I've decided to leave Uncle Bai. Hearing his words, my heart trembled. You're leaving? Where are you going? Suri stood up and looked at me. Please allow me to stay by your side and be your subordinate. I want to be your bodyguard. I raised my head and looked at him. What did you say? Suri, who was thin and weak, looked particularly tall under the sunlight. He looked at me and said, I don't know why, but when I saw him treat you like that, I felt an inexplicable anger in my heart. But I know that he's the one you love, and I can't hurt him, so I endured it. But when I saw you being wronged, I felt an urge to protect you. Do you think I'm being very childish? My tears flowed down again. I hadn't expected him to say that. Suri looked at me crying and immediately panicked. He squatted down and looked at me. He took out a tissue from his pocket and gently wiped the tears on my face. I'm sorry, he said softly. Did I say something wrong to make you cry? I didn't do it on purpose. Please don't cry. I don't know what to do with you like this. As I wiped the tears from the corners of my eyes, I looked at him and said, No, it's just that no one has cared about me like this for a long time. I feel very touched. Thank you, Suri. Chapter 88. Hearing me say that, Suri relaxed. He squatted in front of me and smiled. That's good. As long as I didn't make you unhappy, that's good. Can you think about what I just told you? Let me protect you, okay? Just think of it as paying off a debt. Paying off a debt? What debt? I looked at Suri suspiciously. Suri smiled. You saved my sister and took care of me. No matter what, from now on I'm yours. I'm under your control. Hearing Suri say that, I couldn't help but laugh. I looked at him and said, You make it sound so ambiguous. It feels so mushy. Suri looked at me and reached out to gently rub my hair. He said seriously, Don't cry so sadly in the future. I will do my best to make you happy. You won't have to suffer any more grievances. Thank you. Hearing Suri say so much to me, my heart was moved. Even when my heart was hurt, there was still someone who cared about me. I felt that my cold heart wasn't so cold anymore. Sister-in-law. I heard Xinyao's voice before I even saw her shadow. Then, I saw Xinyao's figure. She saw us and walked towards us. When Suri saw Xinyao, he stood up. Sister-in-law, what are you doing? Xinyao looked at Suri and then sat next to me. She held my arm and sighed helplessly. Suri looked at Xinyao and then said to me, You guys chat. I'm going to see my sister. I nodded to him and he left. Xinyao looked at his back as he left, then turned her head to look at me and said, Sister-in-law, who is he? My new male bodyguard. His name is Suri. Sister-in-law, did you fall in love with someone else? Do you not love my brother anymore? Xinyao pouted and looked at me with an aggrieved face. I gently patted her head and said, Silly girl, what are you talking about? I met him in the police station. He used to be taken care of by the Red Minghui. His sister was sick and needed surgery. I saw that he was a good person. After leaving the police station, I paid for his sister's medical expenses and arranged for her surgery. At the same time, I bailed him out and arranged for him to work for Uncle Bai. Today, when he saw Duan Mukei's attitude towards me, he suddenly felt very angry. Then, he told me that he wanted to work for me and protect me. Did you? Xinyao. And she looked at me with a pout of her mouth. I smiled and looked at her. You can say that. He's not bad. He's reliable. He'll be useful in many ways in the future. Xinyao sighed, looked at me, and said, Then do you still love my brother? I do. My feelings for him have never changed, but I feel like he doesn't love me anymore. Maybe it's because he lost his memory. He has forgotten about me. Right now, I feel that his feelings for me are not as deep as his feelings for Xian. Or maybe he doesn't have any feelings at all. I don't know how to put it, but my heart is very upset. Talking about this topic made her very depressed. Xin Yao hugged me. She leaned on my shoulder and said to me, "Sister-in-law, actually, seeing my brother like this, I feel very uncomfortable in my heart. I always feel like he erased you from his memory. I don't know if he really can't remember you, or if he deliberately can't remember you. It's okay. He'll slowly remember. Everything will be fine. Don't be angry. Being angry is not good for your skin." I patted Xinyao's back. I felt sorry for her. She's right. I don't want my little sister to grow old faster than me. Behind us came Duan Mukei's voice. Xingyao, and I turned around. It was Duan Mukei and Uxin. Uxin held Duan Mukei's arm and walked towards us. They looked like a couple in love. It was a very unpleasant scene. Seeing this scene, Xingyao couldn't control her temper. She stood up and looked at Uxin. "What right do you have to hold my brother's arm? Let go." Xingyao pointed at Uxin's arm that was holding Duan Mukei's arm and roared at her. Uxin glanced at me, then looked at Xingyao. She helplessly pulled her arm back. Duan Mukei looked at Xingyao and said, "Mimi, is there still some misunderstanding between you and Xin? It'll be fine if you talk it out. Dad and Mom said to get along peacefully." "Get along peacefully with her? Don't even dream about it. Brother, it doesn't matter if you really lost your memory or not. I can't be friends with her. I've said it before, I can't coexist with her." Xingyao glared fiercely at Uxin, as if she wanted to eat her alive. Duan Mukei didn't respond to Xingyao. He looked at me, sizing me up from head to toe. Then he walked in front of me and said, "Come with me. I have something to talk to you about." I glanced at Xingyao. Xingyao gave me a meaningful look. She wanted me to talk to him. I turned to Duan Mukei and said, "Okay." Duan Mukei walked deeper into the green zone. I followed behind him and kept walking forward. At this time, Uxin wanted to follow, but she was stopped by Xingyao. Uxin looked at Xingyao and asked, "What's the meaning of this?" Xingyao stood in front of Uxin. She looked at her and said, "Didn't you hear what my brother said? He wants to talk to my sister-in-law, not you. Why are you following him?" Uxin looked at Xingyao, her eyes burning with anger. I turned my head and followed Duan Mukei's footsteps, walking deeper into the green belt. In the middle of the hospital's back garden, there was a small man-made lake. Walking to the lakeside, Duan Mukei stopped. I stood behind him, suddenly feeling that this figure was both familiar and unfamiliar. Duan Mukei suddenly turned around, looked at me, and said, "I've already heard about the matter between you and me from my parents and Xingyao. I'm sorry, I didn't know that I lost my memory. It was after they finished telling me that I lost my memory." Hearing him say that, my mood improved a lot. I smiled at him and said, "It's okay. As long as you can recover, your health is more important than anything else. I'm sorry for what I did to you earlier. Before I understood the situation, my attitude toward you was extremely bad. I'm sorry for making you suffer." Duan Mukei stood in front of me and apologized. I had a feeling that something bad was about to happen. "It's okay. There's no need to apologize between the two of us." I looked at Duan Mukei's face. The feeling in my heart was indescribable. "I won't beat around the bush with you. I called you here because I want to talk to you about us." Duan Mukei stood in front of me, his expression calm. "What do you want to talk to me about?" I looked at Duan Mukei and asked, "Let's get a divorce." Chapter 89. I looked at Duan Mukei and asked him in disbelief, "What did you just say?" Duan Mukei looked at me and adjusted his collar. He looked at me and said, "I said, let's get a divorce. Since it's a marriage arranged by our parents and you didn't want it to happen, we should hurry up and end this situation. I won't affect your life, and I hope you won't affect mine." I calmed down and looked at Duan Quebec. "Is this your own idea? Who else would it be?" He looked at me, his eyes strange. Tears rolled down from the corners of my eyes. Duan Mukei looked at me and was stunned for a moment. Then he said, "Oh, I understand. How about this? Give me your bank account number. After we get a divorce, I'll give you a handsome sum of money as compensation. Who wants your stinky money? I turned my face away from him. Duanmuke sneered. He looked at me and said, "Don't all women love a man's money?" "Oh, I understand what you mean. We've already had sex. Don't worry, I'll give you a handsome sum of money as a breakup fee, including compensation for the psychological damage and the loss of your youth. What do you think?" I turned to look at him and said, "I told you I don't want your money." Duanmuke walked over to me. He reached out and pressed me against the tree. Looking at me, he said, "Long Yuli, you'd better do what you say. Don't cross my bottom line. Otherwise, I don't know what I'll do to you." My shoulder hurt from being pressed against the tree. I sneered at Duanmuke and said, "I've experienced the old you. If I was an angel in the past, then I'm definitely a demon now." Duanmuke let go of my hand and looked at me. I didn't want to look at him. Duanmuke continued, "Since you've been living in my house, I'm not in a hurry to let you move out. I don't want people to say that I, Duanmuke, am too decisive. I'll give you half a month. After half a month, I don't want to see anything of yours in my house." "No need. I won't go back. You can get rid of everything related to me." Duanmuke's words made me very angry. Duanmuke suddenly reached out and grabbed my chin. He raised my head and stared coldly into my eyes. I didn't avoid his gaze and looked him in the eye. Duanmuke looked at me and said, "This matter is not up to you. I say when you can leave, then you can leave. You want to leave now? Impossible. I don't care how powerful the Red Minghui is. I only care about who dares to disobey the Duanmu family. I advise you to recognize the situation and don't do anything useless. You want to escape? Impossible." I shook off Duanmuke's hand and looked at him. "Don't touch me. Why do you make all the decisions? Don't think too highly of yourself. If you marry a chicken, you have to follow the chicken. If you marry a dog, you have to follow the dog. Since you married me, married into the Duanmu family, you have to listen to the Duanmu family." After Duanmuke said that, he pulled my hand and walked towards a hospital building. Although I struggled, Duanmuke was too strong. I felt a faint pain in my wrist. However, Duanmuke didn't seem to want to let go. When we reached the bench where I had rested earlier, I saw Yu Xian and Xinyao still standing there. The two of them didn't say anything. They just looked at each other with murderous expressions. When Yu Xian saw Duanmuke pull me over, she smiled and walked over. She looked at Duanmuke and said, "Brother Duanmu, you talk for so long. You should go back and rest. The doctor said you should rest on time." Duanmuke looked at Yu Xian and smiled. He said softly, "Okay, I know. Let's go back to the ward." Duanmuke used all his strength to throw me in front of Xinyao. I lost my balance and almost fell. Xinyao quickly supported me. She looked at Duanmuke and said angrily, "Brother, what are you doing? Look, you've made sister-in-law's wrist red." Xinyao gently held my wrist. There was a clear handprint of 5 fingers on it. Duanmuke looked at Xinyao. He pointed at me and said coldly, "Xinyao, go back and tell Mom and Dad that I've already talked with her. In 15 days, we will divorce. For the sake of our Kurosawa's face, I won't drive her away for the next 15 days. You take good care of her. It's best if she stays at home for the next 15 days. Otherwise, don't blame me for being impolite." Duanmuke looked at me, then turned around and pulled Yu Xian toward the hospital building. "Brother, how can you be like this?" Xinyao looked at the backs of Duanmuke and Yu Xian. She was very angry. She roared at Duanmuke, but Duanmuke didn't even turn his head. He left with Yu Xian while talking and laughing. I tightly gripped Xinyao's hand and said, "Forget it, Xinyao, let him be." "But he wants to divorce you." "Sister-in-law. He's so close to Yu Xian. Is he going to be with that slut?" "Sister-in-law. You can't agree to divorce him." Xinyao supported me and looked at me as she spoke. I shook my head with a cold smile and said, "What else can I do? I don't know what to do to make him remember our past." "Sister-in-law, don't get agitated. Your wrist is injured. I'll take you to the hospital to get it bandaged first. Xinyao lifted my wrist that was red from Duanmukei's grasp and said worriedly, "No need. Compared to this, my heart hurts even more. But there's no medicine to treat it." My tears flowed down again. Seeing me cry, Xinyao hugged me tightly. She patted my back and said, "Sister-in-law, don't cry. Let's go home first. I'll talk to Mom and Dad about this. I want to see how my brother can win against the three of us." I leaned into Xinyao's embrace and suddenly thought of a person. I dialed his number. "Hello, where are you? If there's nothing, can you come find me? That's mine." After saying that, I hung up the phone. Leaning into Xinyao's embrace, my tears flowed down uncontrollably. Xinyao whispered into my ear, "Sister-in-law, who did you just call? You'll know in a bit." I didn't say much and waited for that person to come. After 5 minutes, I heard the sound of hurried footsteps from not too far away. I let go of Xinyao and turned around. As expected, it was Suri. He ran all the way in front of us. Standing there, he looked at me and panted, "Missy, what's wrong? Did something happen?" I looked at Suri and said, "Didn't you want to stay by my side and be my bodyguard? Does that still count?" "Of course it counts. Missy, you agreed?" Suri looked at me excitedly. Chapter 90. I looked at Suri and nodded. Suri excitedly jumped up, looked at me, and said, "That's great. I can finally work for you. That's great." Looking at Suri's excited expression, Xinyao pursed her lips and looked at Suri and said, "Is there a need to be so happy? So annoying. There's someone who's going to steal my sister-in-law." Suri looked at Xinyao and said, "Miss Duanmukei, hello, I am Suri, currently Miss Lang's bodyguard." As he said that, he extended his hand in front of Xinyao and looked at Xinyao with a smile. Xinyao glanced at me. I motioned for her to shake hands with Suri. Only then did she extend her hand, shook Suri's hand for a moment, then let go. Xinyao looked at me and said, "Sister-in-law, what do you mean by taking him in as a bodyguard?" I looked at Xinyao and said, "I'll have to ask you to put in a good word for me in front of Mom and Dad." "That's not a problem. The key is what you want me to do." Xinyao never hesitated when it came to my requests. She always tried her best to help me. I looked at her and said, "If Duanmukei really wants to divorce me, I can't leave your home at will. I can only quietly stay in your home. Also, I can't predict what you Xin will do to me during this period of time. Now that I don't have Duanmukei as a guarantee, if you Xin really wants to do something to me, I won't even be able to resist. That's why I'm taking Suri with me. First, he can protect me, and second, he can do a lot of things for me. So, I'll have to trouble you to talk to Mom and Dad and let Suri enter the Duanmukei's home for 15 days. If we really divorce, I'll take him with me." Xinyao pulled my hand and said, "That's not a problem. I'll talk to Mom and Dad. They'll definitely agree. Sister-in-law, don't worry about this. But don't worry, I won't let you divorce. You have to believe me. I'll definitely keep you by my side." I looked at Xinyao and said, "Okay, I'll leave it to you. Let's go home first." Suri looked at me and said, "Miss, I'll go make arrangements for my sister first, then I'll go over." "No need, I'll call Uncle Bai later. I'll leave everything here to him. You can come with me," I said to Suri. Is that appropriate? I didn't even prepare a change of clothes or toiletries. If I really move in, wouldn't it be too abrupt? Suri asked worriedly. Xinyao looked Suri up and down from head to toe. Then she said to him, "I see that you have a good body. I have some sample clothes at home that I prepared for the competition. I took a look, and you should be able to wear them. As for underwear and toiletries, I'll ask the nanny to prepare a few more sets." I moved closer to Suri's ear and whispered, "You've gotten a bargain. Xinyao's clothes are all first-tier brands. Some of them can't be bought even if you want to. You should be happy." "Really? Thank you so much, Miss Duanmu." Suri bowed deeply to Xinyao, a smile blooming on his face. Xinyao looked at Suri's bright smile and blushed. She lowered her head and tugged at the corner of her clothes. If it weren't for my sister-in-law's face, I wouldn't have let you wear the clothes I designed. I gently stroked Xinyao's hair and said, "Okay, let's go back and see how Xiaokei is doing." The three of us walked towards the hospital building. While we were chatting, we arrived at the door of Duanmukei's room. We pushed the door open and entered. There was no sign of Duanmukei and Uxin. There was only a nurse cleaning the bed where Duanmukei used to lie. When she heard someone enter, she stood up and looked at us. "Are you here to visit young Master Duanmu?" Xinyao nodded. "We're his family. Where did he go?" "Young Master Duanmu has already finished the discharge procedures and left." "What? He's already been discharged?" I thought. How could he have just been discharged? The nurse looked at us. "Yes, he's already been discharged. He just left." "Okay, thank you." I turned and walked out of the room. Xinyao and Suri stood next to me and looked at me, not knowing what to do. Xinyao asked, "How could my brother be discharged?" "It must have been instigated by that bitch. What should we do now?" I sighed. "Let's go back to Duanmu's house." "Okay, let's take my car. It's parked in the parking lot." "Suri, you drive." Xinyao took out her car keys and threw them to Suri. "Okay." On the way home, I called Uncle Bai and arranged everything for Suri. That way, Suri could stay by my side and work for me. On the way home, Xinyao and I discussed how to talk to Duanmu Tachio and Xiao Fengya about the divorce. We were afraid that, if we spoke too directly, it would hurt the two old people. We also wanted to suppress the matter, but we were also afraid that Duanmukei wouldn't forgive us. Before we knew it, the car had arrived at Duanmu's house. As soon as we got out of the car, the housekeeper hurried over to greet us. She looked at me and said anxiously, young mistress, you're finally back. Please talk to the young master." Master was so angry that he had another heart attack. "What? What's going on? Take me to see him." I didn't have time to care about Suri and Xinyao. I hurried to the living room. After entering the living room, I was shocked by the cold air in front of me. Duanmukei was standing next to the tea table. Uxin was also standing next to him. Duanmu Tachio was leaning back on the sofa. Xiao Fengya was sitting next to him, gently massaging his heart. The things on the tea table had been thrown to the ground. The living room was a mess. I couldn't care less. I ran to Duanmu Tachio's side and checked his condition. Fortunately, his life wasn't in danger. I looked at Xiao Fengya and asked, "Mom, how's Dad?" Xiao Fengya wiped the tears from the corners of her eyes. She said to me, "He's okay. I just gave him a few pills. It seems like his condition isn't as bad as before." I turned around and saw Suri, who had come in with me. I said to him, "Suri, come here and give me a hand. Help me carry my father to the car. We'll take him directly to the hospital. Xinyao, follow me and see what's going on. If there's anything, immediately call me." Suri listened to my words and nodded. He walked over and gently helped Duanmu Tachio up. Then he walked towards the door. Xinyao also supported Duanmu Tachio at his side. At this time, Duanmukei walked to the front and blocked Suri's path. He looked at Suri and said, "Put it down. This is our family's business. It's none of your business." "Brother, what do you mean by that? Are you going to let our father get sick like this?" Xinyao shouted at Duanmu, Quebec. Chapter 91. Duanmukei glanced at Xinyao and said, "I'll take care of our father's business. There's no need to let an outsider take care of it." Xiao Fengya stood up and looked at Duanmu, Quebec. You're going too far. How can you talk like that?" "I've decided. Xinyao, hurry up and take your father to the hospital for a checkup. Keep an eye on him. I'll stay at home. I want to see what your older brother wants to do to this family." It was the first time I saw Xiao Fengya angry. I looked at Xinyao and Suri and said, "Girl, hurry up and take our father to the hospital. Suri, drive carefully." Xin Yao nodded at me, and then left with Suri carrying Duanmu Tachio. After Xiao Fengyao watched them leave, she sat back down on the sofa with her arms crossed in front of her chest. She looked at Duanmu Ke and then at me and said, "Xiaoli, come and sit next to me." I looked at her and nodded, then sat next to her. Seeing Xiao Fengyao's actions, Duanmu Ke said with an impatient expression, "Mom, I'm going upstairs." Then he turned around and walked upstairs. "Stop. You're getting more and more uneducated. Did I allow you to leave? Stand there." Xiao Fengyao roared at Duanmu Quebec. The normally amiable Xiao Fengyao was now so fierce. I couldn't believe it. Duanmu Ke turned to Xiao Fengyao and said, "Mom, I don't think I did anything wrong. Yes, Dad got a heart attack because of me, but I didn't do it on purpose. I just wanted to take Dad to the hospital. Since you insist on having an outsider take him, then I can't do anything about it." Hearing Duanmu Ke say those words, I suddenly felt like I didn't know him anymore. Or had he always been such a ruthless person? Ke, you don't have to say anything else. You don't have to say anything about the divorce. Your father and I will never agree to it. Xiao Li is not an outsider. She is our legal wife. You don't have the final say in this family. Duanmu Ke sighed and said, "Mom, if you really want to say that, then I can't do anything about it. If you want to acknowledge her, then so be it. I will never acknowledge her as my woman." Do you want to piss me off too? Xiao Fengyao stood up from the sofa and pointed at Duanmu Quebec. "You're going too far." I stood up and supported Xiao Fengyao. I gently patted her back and comforted her. "Mom, don't get too worked up. Your health is more important." I turned and looked at Duanmu Quebec. "Xiao Ke, no matter what, you shouldn't talk to your mother like that. You're hurting her feelings." Duanmu Ke looked at me and sneered. "You don't need to pretend to be nice. My parents might be nice to you, but I won't." "Fine. You want to be like this, right? Fine. I'm telling you, you don't want her. We want her. Get out of here." Xiao Fengyao pointed upstairs and told him to leave. Yu Xian glanced at us, then pulled Duanmu Ke upstairs. I watched Yu Xian's every move. It seemed she had put a lot of effort into Duanmu Ke since Duanmu Ke woke up. After Duanmu Ke left, Xiao Fengyao sat on the sofa, covered her face, and cried. I gently patted her back and said, "Mom, don't cry. He definitely didn't do it on purpose. Don't be angry." Xiao Fengyao pulled my hand. "Xiao Li, I'm sorry. Ke, treated you like this. I didn't have the ability to protect you. Mom, don't blame yourself. I know you and Dad took care of me." I hugged Xiao Fengyao and leaned on her shoulder. I could feel that her heart was also very sad. After a while, I held her arm and looked at her. "Mom, let me help you back to your room to rest." Xiao Fengyao looked at me with a tired face and shook her head. "I'm worried about your dad. I want to go see him. Mom, I'll go take care of it. You rest first. Dad will be fine. If there's anything, I'll inform you immediately." "All right. Thank you for your hard work." I helped Xiao Fengyao back to her room and helped her lie down. Then I quietly left the room. I returned to the living room and dialed Xin Yao's number. "Xin Yao, it's me. Sister-in-law, I know. How's our family?" I sighed and said, "Mom had a fight with Duanmu, Quebec. I've just settled her down and put her to sleep. My brother is too immature. How's Dad?" I asked directly. "Dad's fine. He woke up on the way here. The doctor is doing a thorough examination. There's no big problem. Once the doctor confirms it, we can go back." Thanks to Suri's fast and steady driving, we arrived at the hospital very quickly. "That's good. I'll leave Dad to you. There's a lot going on at home, so I won't go over. If there's anything, you can keep an eye on him. If there's anything, call me." "Don't worry, sister-in-law. Take care of yourself. Don't let that bitch bully you." "Okay, I got it. You go do what you need to do. I'm hanging up." I hung up the phone and sighed. Luckily, nothing happened to Duanmu Tachio. I sat on the sofa and thought about what had happened in the past 2 days. It felt like a dream. At this moment, Xin walked in front of me. She stood across from me and asked, "How's Uncle?" I raised my head and looked at her. Then, I raised my head and looked at the ceiling. "He's fine. That's good." Then, Xin sat across from me and looked at me without moving. I saw that she didn't want to leave. I stood up and walked to the door. Xin suddenly stopped me. "Wait a minute. I want to talk to you." I stopped and didn't look at her. "I don't have anything to say to you. Don't you think that Duanmukei's attitude towards you has changed?" Xin's words pierced my heart. I turned and looked at Xin. "I know. It's not a big deal. As long as he's happy." Xin looked at me. "Why are you so calm all of a sudden? Don't you think that I'm the one who instigated this?" I sneered and looked at Xin. "So what if you're the one who instigated this? Now that he's already treating me like this, what can I do to change it? There's no other way." It doesn't matter if you're the one who instigated this, or if it's his own intention. I don't want to think about it anymore. Then will you still stay in Duanmu's house? I don't think so. Didn't Duanmukei say that he wants a divorce? I respect his decision. Although it might harm the interests of both families, I don't want to wrong him, nor do I want to wrong myself. Being with someone who doesn't love me, my heart will be very tired. Is that what you really think? Xin looked at me in disbelief. I shook my head and looked at her. "No, but what can I do? Isn't this the ending you want?" Chapter 92. I looked at Xin and said, "Then you can naturally walk to Xiao Kei's side and become his woman. It's the best outcome for you, him, and me." Xin smiled and looked at me. "Haha, I don't know how to answer you. If that's what you want, then thank you for helping us." I sneered and looked at her. "You're welcome." I turned around and didn't look at her. I walked toward the garden. I tried to hold back the tears in my eyes, but they still flowed down from the corners. I walked to the deepest part of the garden and stood next to the rose pool that Duanmukei had built for me. Looking at the beautiful roses in the pool, my heart felt like it was being stabbed by a knife. I sat on a rattan chair across from the rose pool, and my tears couldn't stop flowing. I recalled everything that had happened with Duanmu, Quebec. I still loved him very much. Although he didn't remember me, I still couldn't forget him. "Your heart hurts, right?" A man's voice came from the deepest part of the garden. I turned my head and looked in the direction of the voice. Han Hao walked out from behind the tree. He looked at me, his eyes full of tenderness. "Why are you here?" I asked, looking at him in surprise. "I've been here for a while." He walked towards me. "Oh, what are you doing here?" "I was waiting for Xinyao, but she told me that she was at the hospital with Uncle Duanmu. She asked me to go over. I was going to go over, but I just happened to run into you." Han Hao walked in front of me and looked at me without blinking. His scent was so familiar, and his eyes were so gentle. I didn't dare to continue looking at him. I was afraid that I would be trapped in his eyes. I said, "Then you should go quickly. The hospital is very busy. I don't think she can handle it alone." "Isn't there still Suri? You know him?" I looked at Han Hao in disbelief. Han Hao smiled and looked at me. "Xinyao will tell me everything. She already introduced her to me. She said she's your personal bodyguard. Yes, he's very reliable." She didn't know why, but after she said that, the atmosphere became even more awkward. Han Hao kept looking at me, but he didn't say anything. I felt more and more embarrassed, so I tried to find a topic to talk about. "You should go and find Xinyao. You still love Duanmukei, don't you?" Han Hao looked at me and said softly. "What?" Although his voice was very low, I heard it clearly, but I had to pretend that I didn't hear it. Han Hao suddenly pressed on my shoulder and said, "Even if he has forgotten you, you don't want to erase him from your heart, do you?" I understood what Han Hao meant. He still had feelings for me. I looked at Han Hao and said, "That's right. I still have him in my heart. I still love him. I can't forget him. But he hurt you so deeply. Do you still miss him?" Han Hao grabbed my shoulder and roared at me. I lifted my head and looked at Han Hao. Yes, I'm that cheap. I'm willing to stay by his side. No matter what he does to me, I will always be with him. Han Hao suddenly hugged me and buried his head in my shoulder. I could feel him sobbing. Han Hao hugged me tightly. I didn't know what to do. Leaning into Han Hao's embrace, I smelled his familiar scent. My eyes became moist. Han Hao whispered to me, "Why is it that no matter what happens, you would rather hurt yourself than hurt others? Why are you so stupid?" I let Han Hao hug me and didn't let go. I said softly, "It's nothing. I'll get used to it." Han Hao let go of me. He looked at me and said, "Just think of it as being selfish for yourself, okay? Even if it's just this once, you won't be hurt like this." I looked at Han Hao and smiled. "You know I can't do it. I will never be able to do it." Han Hao's eyes were still glistening with tears. He looked at me, his eyes full of tenderness. Looking at his handsome face, I couldn't help but raise my hand and gently touch his handsome face. I didn't know why, but in front of him, I had always pretended to be strong, but he had always seen through me. Han Hao hugged me and cupped my face. He kissed me deeply on the lips. The moment he kissed me, tears streamed down my cheeks. At that moment, it was as if time had stopped. I couldn't feel anything around me. All my attention was on this passionate kiss. Suddenly, I thought of something and pushed Han Hao away. Han Hao looked at me in surprise. I didn't look at him. I turned around and wiped the tears off my face. Han Hao suddenly hugged me from behind. I grabbed his arm and tried to break free from his embrace. Han Hao hugged me tightly to prevent me from running away. He said to me, "Do you still want to run away?" Han Hao let go of me. "How can you face Xinyao like this?" I retorted. "I don't like her at all. You're the one who always wanted me to be with her. You know who I like. I've always listened to you. But this time, I don't want to listen anymore. When I saw how Xiao Kei treated you, I felt terrible. Since you two have decided to divorce, I can officially pursue you." Han Hao suddenly hugged me and put me on the rattan chair by the rose pond. I sat on the rattan chair while he supported himself with both hands. I couldn't move. He stared at me with a serious face. "Han Hao, I treat you as my good friend. If you really do this, we can't even be friends anymore." I had no choice but to threaten him. I thought this method would work on Han Hao, but he stood in front of me and looked at me indifferently. His eyes looked like he wanted to eat me. He suddenly whispered in my ear, "I can wait. I can wait until you two divorce. As long as you two divorce, I will do everything I can to pursue you. I don't believe in giving you to others." I looked at Han Hao angrily and said, "Han Hao, I'm already in a mess. Don't add to it. I won't be with you. Whether it's for Xinyao, Xiao Kei, or for other reasons, I won't be with you. Don't even think about it." Han Hao sneered and said, "It doesn't matter. What I want to do is my business. What you want to do is your business. What I can promise you is that I will never let you down." Hearing him say that, I suddenly remembered what Duanmu Kei had said to me. I had said to him, "I don't believe in promises anymore. Promises can be changed at any time. I will never believe it." Chapter 93. Han Hao looked at me and said, "Shaoli, can you trust me one more time?" "It's not a matter of trust. Han Hao, I understand your feelings for me, but I can't accept it. I'm sorry. Are you worried about Xinyao?" I shook my head and looked at him. "No. No matter who it is or what it is, I won't accept you." Seeing my firm attitude, Han Hao sighed. He let go of me and looked at me. "Okay, I respect your choice. I'll wait until you're divorced, then I'll pursue you. This is my business. You don't have to worry about it. Don't you want Duanmu Kei and me to be happy?" I suddenly felt that Han Hao was very persistent. "No, I just want you to be happy. I also want you to give me a chance to be happy. I didn't want to think about anything else. I felt that we shouldn't talk about this topic anymore. I suddenly remembered that Xinyao was still looking for him. So I said, let's talk about it later. You go and accompany Xinyao. I have to go back. Han Hao reached out and held me in his arms. He whispered to me, okay, whatever you say. I'll go find her. You take good care of yourself. If there's anything, you must call me. I leaned into Han Hao's arms and nodded. Han Hao cupped my face and kissed my forehead. Then he left. I didn't know why, but this intimate action made me subconsciously accept him. Maybe my feelings for Han Hao had never disappeared. I stood by the rose pond for a while, looking at the garden full of blooming flowers. All sorts of feelings welled up in my heart. I didn't want to face it, but I still had to face it. I walked to the living room. I didn't know what unexpected things would happen when I saw Duanmu K in my room. I passed through the living room and headed upstairs. Xiao Fengya's bedroom door was closed. It seemed like she was still resting. This was good. If I really had an argument with Duanmu K, I wouldn't have to worry about it affecting her mood. I walked to the bedroom door. The entire corridor was silent. There was no one in sight. The usually lively home had become lifeless. I pushed the door open and walked into the bedroom. As soon as I entered the room, I saw Duanmu K lying naked with his eyes closed. I didn't say anything and gently closed the door. I didn't want to wake him up. I walked to the wardrobe by the bed and gently opened it, then took out my clothes one by one, because I knew, with Duanmu K's personality, he definitely wouldn't allow me to sleep on the same bed as him in this room. I took a few coats and was about to turn around and put them on the chair next to the bed, when I suddenly saw Duanmu K sitting by the bed, looking at me with a serious face. I didn't have time to react. I was scared and took 2 steps back, bumping into the wardrobe. My legs went soft and I sat on the floor. I lifted my head to look at Duanmu, Quebec. He was still sitting on the bed, glaring at me. If it had been in the past, Duanmu K would have rushed to me and hugged me. But now, his attitude towards me was clear. I wasn't that important anymore. I sneered and stood up with the help of the wardrobe. I glanced at him and turned around to take out my clothes. After a while, I was almost done with all the clothes. I started to take out my luggage and put the clothes inside one by one. Duanmu K just sat in front of me and looked at me without moving. There were a few times when I glanced at him, but his gaze was very determined. He didn't look away from me at all. I didn't feel uncomfortable either. I only lowered my head and tidied up the clothes. When I was halfway through, Duanmu K suddenly grabbed my hand. I lifted my head and looked at him with a puzzled face. He snatched the clothes from my hand and tore them without saying anything. My temper flared up. I shouted at Duanmu K, "What are you doing?" He didn't pay attention to me. He reached for the second piece of clothing and tore it. I didn't know what he wanted to do. I looked at him angrily. "Stop. Don't touch my clothes." Duanmu K glared at me. He grabbed another piece of clothing and tore it in front of me. I didn't know what he wanted to do. Seeing that he was about to tear my clothes again, I hurriedly grabbed his hand and tried to stop him. However, Duanmu K was too strong. He flung my arm away and threw me onto the bed. He turned around and grabbed the clothes in the suitcase, tearing them one by one. I tried to press his arm down again, but he swung me away. He suddenly reached for the gown that he'd bought for me. My heart skipped a beat and I jumped off the bed. Before he could grab the gown, I grabbed it and hugged it in my arms. I leaned against the wardrobe and looked at him in horror. Duanmu K stood up from the bed. He looked at me with a fierce gaze. I retreated step by step until I reached the door. There was nowhere else to go. I hugged the dress tightly and looked at him. "Not this one. You can't tear it." Duanmu K extended his hand in front of me. He said calmly, "Give it to me." I shook my head. My tears were about to fall. I looked at him and said, "Not this one. For the last time, give it to me." Duanmu K looked at me and said slowly. I suddenly felt fear. I hid the gown behind me and shook my head desperately at Duanmu, Quebec. This was the gown that he had given me. It was the thing that I treasured the most. I couldn't watch it get destroyed. Duanmuke walked in front of me. He grabbed my collar with both hands. Although I was very scared, I tried my best to protect the dress. Duanmuke grabbed the two corners of my collar and pulled with all his strength. My top was torn by him. I was only left with my underwear. I couldn't help but cry. I looked at Duanmuke and said, "No, are you giving it to me or not?" He threw the torn dress to the side and looked at me as he said, "Duanmuke, I'm begging you, okay? Let me go. This is the most precious thing I have. I'm begging you." It was the first time I had begged someone so humbly. I didn't know why. Looking at the cruel Duanmuke in front of me, he didn't just tear my dress, he tore my heart. Duanmuke didn't stop. He reached out and tore my dress. Besides my underwear, there was nothing covering my body. Duanmuke was too strong. When he tore the dress, he made a few red spots on my body. I squatted on the ground and leaned against the corner of the wall. The gown was stuck in the crevice. To me, this humiliation was worse than death. Duanmuke squatted down. He lifted my chin and looked at me. "This is what you get for not listening to me. Don't challenge my bottom line. Give me that dress." You're tuning in to the Echo Reads YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.